Welton Rayom has more than 62 years of litigation experience handling insurance disputes. They're committed to resolving even the toughest insurance claims quickly. Call them for a free consultation. 954-966-4646. At Welton Rayom, they don't get paid unless you win. Property damage claims to your home, business, or condo as a result of a hurricane. Welton Rayom can help. Water, mold, fire, smoke damage, Welton Rayom can help. Call 954-966-4646.
Get locked out in the worst moments of your life.
Where are my car keys?
Man, I can't find my house keys.
In those frustrating moments, you need a locksmith you can count on. A. Lenny Locksmiths in South Florida, from Miami to Port St. Lucie. In Central Florida, A. Lenny locks it down in Orlando and Tampa Bay. Lockouts or lock changes for home or business. Car key replacements and programming all model cars. 24-hour service. Call them at 855-869-5625. Go to the website at alennylocksmith.com.
This is the Big O Show.
Sports fans love a place with great food, cold drinks, and TVs everywhere. That's why sports fans love Sports Grill and their 7 amazing locations. Check out the Bird Road location at 11481 Southwest 40th Street in the back corner of the West Bird Shopping Center. Sports Grill is also now offering some great employment opportunities. All kinds of positions are now available, from kitchen to hosting. Call for more information at 305-485-8845. From wraps to salads to amazingly delicious specialty dishes, Sports Grill is the home to the legendary special grilled wings. Since 1987, Sports Grill, good food, good drink, and good friends.
It's the Big O Show. You're tuned in to the hottest sports radio.
When you need your warehouse looking good while staying efficient, there's only one place to find the finest racks in the business. Pallet Rack City in Hialeah. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547. Pallet Rack City is the company you need when you want your warehouse sporting the finest racks in the business. After all, who doesn't love a great rack? Pallet Rack City. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547.
Orlando, a.k.a. the Big O. He covers all the South Florida teams.
For over 16 years, EJDconstruction.com has provided South Florida residents quality craftsmanship, accurate project management, and exceptional service. That's why EJDconstruction.com is an A-rated member of Angie's List and the Better Business Bureau. When you're looking for the right custom home builder for additions or home remodeling, please call my friend Eric at 305-433-4843. That's 305-433-4843 for EJDconstruction.com.
Dolphins to the Heat, well, you know what I mean. Monday to Friday, Lollipop, blow in the...
There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
The viewpoint statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyXS.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website.
The Big O Radio Show is brought to you by HialeahParkCasino.com. Enjoy simulcast racing, dining, a magnificent poker room, and a casino with the most popular machines on the market. OKCoin.com. Download the app on iOS, Google Play, or Windows. OKCoin.com with over 50 different coins and incredible staking rewards. Pallet Rack City. There's only one place to find the finest racks in the business. Pallet Rack City. 305-424-8547. That's 305-424-8547.
The Big O Radio Show originates from the OK Coin Studios. OK Coin is one of the largest fiat to crypto trading platforms in the world. Founded in 2013, OK Coin offers advanced features for crypto beginners and high-volume traders alike, enabling users in 184 countries worldwide. The Big O Radio Show is mastered by executive producer Sean Stanley from the OK Coin Studios. When it comes to South Florida sports teams, very few in the media have witnessed, lived, and covered it like the Big O. Let's start the program dedicated to your favorite South Florida teams with a passion that's unmatched. The Big O Radio Show is on. Here's the Big O.
Yes, sir. Welcome aboard for beautiful palatial estates here. No, I'm not on. No, you're on. No. All right, we're on. We're good. Are we good? Give us the thumbs up out there that we're good and we're rocking and rolling out there. And of course, always hit that like button. All right, I thought I was going to be able to hear myself with that one, but I guess I'm not going to be able. And there, I can actually hear myself, which is a beautiful thing. All right, a little bit of an echo, right? It's yeah, it's one of those things. Well, what are you going to do, right? There we go. All right, let's even more. We're out in space, the final frontier. Captain's log 4768. Today, Spock discovered Pampers. No, I don't know. I have no idea. All right, we're going to obviously. We have our issues, and we're going to fix it out. Yeah, there it goes. It's a little less. Much better there. All right. See how it is? We could go from there, and then all of a sudden, we can go Elon Musk, space, the final frontier. All right. We're done with that. Anyway, welcome aboard. I hope you all are doing well out there. And yes, we are. This is like our home headquarters. We didn't get a hotel. We got an Airbnb because it's way better than a hotel at this moment for us. With all the work we have to do after, we get to kind of hang out. So it's a little bit better. But anyway, hopefully you all are doing well out there on a beautiful Thursday, draft Thursday. So we'll be back tonight, of course. Remember, 8 o'clock tonight, we're going to be at Tommy Rockers. And we'll be rocking and rolling for many hours out there. We got a loaded guest list. I can actually give you some of the guests that we're going to have on the show on over the next couple of days. But I mean, it's a list that is absolutely sick. We've got a loaded show. Let me see where we got it here. Where's the one I sent it to you there? I thought I sent it to you. Wait a minute. Where the hell is it there? Didn't you get it? I thought I sent it to you, Sean. Didn't I send it to you? I could have sworn I sent it to you yesterday. But anyway, so
no, I didn't get anything.
No? All right. That's a real screw up on my part. But anyway, we are absolutely loaded. All of our insiders are going to be on twice. We've got a lot of Dolphin guys also from a lot of the popular podcasts that are going to be on. We're going to have Mike DeRocco. Obviously, the Jags have the number one pick, and whether they go D lineman, I would kind of, to me, I would probably go on the O line. I would protect, Trevor Lawrence like crazy. I would do if you're going to draft a young quarterback, protect him, man. I mean, if you're going to draft a quarterback, period, protect him. You have to do that. To me, that's the most important. After watching what happened to Andrew Luck, and that guy's built like a tree trunk, and yet he got railroaded all the time because he has a crappy line. Indianapolis went and built one of the best lines in the NFL after the guy leaves. Which, by the way, I mean, seriously, he's not that guy. But if I'm Andrew Luck, I'm mother effing everybody in sight over there at Indianapolis. Like, you sons of bitches. Now's when you get a running game and an offensive line. I could have been playing. I mean, the Colts. You think they lose to the Jags if they have Andrew Luck? That's why Carson Wentz isn't there. The owner was like, no, I've seen enough. Get that guy out of my face. And they got rid of him and shipped him off to Washington. Now it's Washington's problem. But still, man, it is crazy. So we're gonna have a lot of talk that's not draft related at times here. We will talk some draft, but it'll be very little today because it'll be all tonight, obviously, when the draft is going on, which is what makes sense. We're going to be talking for the next 3 days. Tomorrow, we'll be back right around the same time, okay, to do a short program again. But Friday, we're on at 7 o'clock at night, and we're on till like midnight. So we're going to be doing like 5 hours. So you can't expect me to do my normal show here in the morning and then beyond so many hours in the evening. You know what I'm saying? So got to be patient with us. David Dwork is going to join us at 11:40. Anthony Chang will join us right around 11:20. And then at the top of the hour, we're going to have Inside the Paint with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro. So that'll be cool. Appreciate it. So thank you all out there. I see Steve Chapman is in. Omar Lopez, Big Bob is in. Konstantin Popa was a great shot blocker. Yes, he was. He's like Konstantin Popa is the Alan Ogg of the Miami Hurricanes. Those two could be brothers from other mothers. Jamie Zorrilla in the house from San Jose. And he reminds everybody to smash the hell out of the like button. Yes, please. And Michael Austin in 6193, David in, Ad Marks, Tony Zagales, Brandon Lacombe, Tyrone Mead. Yes, I know the sound has echo. Raging Dolphin, Dougie Fresh, Robert Carrillo. Notes are following from the ski, Big O. We see you, but damn, Big O. You look like you had, yes. Yeah. I did have a long night, actually. I've had a long 2.5 days. Travel, time change, it's, don't feel sorry for me, but yeah, it's going to take me a little bit to get it. I'm here for 9 days, so I'll get adjusted to being out here as it goes on. But yes, it's been a long 2.5 days, probably. Let's say. Apparently, space has decorations from Clay Aiken. Yes. Garage sale hanging on the walls. Good morning to all. Draft day. Ron Yo Big O. Tyrone Mead is in. Mob Rule. Blank Slate. Morning Big O. Chat out from Sacramento. Love what you do. Keep it going. Mo from Sacramento says, I'll be here for it all. Thank you for doing this, Big O. Franklin Valverde is in. Zoria says, it's amazing how greedy some fans are. If Tyreek's trade had happened today or tonight, instead of a month ago, everybody would be super happy. Short-term memory. Yep. Nizzle is in. Jason Patrick. Hit the Red Rooster while you're in town. What is the Red Rooster? What kind of food is the Red Rooster? Oh, wait a minute. Red Rooster now? Is that like some kind of brothel or something like that? What are you guys trying to do? Get me in trouble? Let's see. I'm hoping X is traded to the Giants for the 7th overall pick. That's not going to happen, dude. They extended his contract. They're doing everything, as I've said before, okay? They did everything to make sure that Mike McDaniel has a solid season everywhere else. They're not drafting Matt Araiza. They got a veteran punter. Okay, no matter what Omar Kelly may tell you, they're not drafting a punter. They're not thinking of drafting a punter. All right. So they did that on purpose. They brought back the defensive staff on purpose. They brought back all their defensive players on purpose. They re-signed X on purpose. All of these things were done, if you look at it on the outside, they were done with an idea of, okay, we're bringing a guy that needs to fix the offense. Our special teams isn't a disaster. Our defense is not a disaster. They're solid. If we get a much better offense, everything will improve. So let's make the job of the head coach easy. Let's keep our defensive staff and continuity in place. Let's re-sign X. Maybe we could have traded him, but right now we need him because we need the defense to settle down the next couple of years here so Mike can fix the offense. We can figure out Tua, and then we can move on. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the overall thing. So they're not going to be trading X after you have given him that contract. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Plus, the cap hit would be brutal. So everything was done to make life as simple as possible so Mike McDaniel doesn't have to worry that much about special teams and the defense. He has to fix the offense, which is the problem with Miami offense. Let's see. What else do we have here going on the program? Let's see here. Jonathan Cagelin. Hiccup is in. Charles Reed. Carlos Herrera, following from Tijuana, Mexico, ready for the draft. There you go. Tijuana is the one that's right by the border, right? So maybe next year we visit you or you visit us because we'll go next year to the NFLPA game in Long Beach. So we'll be right there. We'll be close. Ron says, I bought the dip. So did I. Got myself some Avalanche this morning. Got myself a little Polygon. Let's see. What else did I get? Polka Dot. Got me some polka dots. Yeah. Yep. Got me some of that. Let's see. Tyrone Mead says Dudley Durong was the one that showed you. Showed me what? You gotta help me out there. I don't know. What was I talking about that he showed me? Let's see what we got. A lot of people there, man. Lester's in. Gus. Get Lester's in North Carolina. I like it. 6193 wants me to get a divorce by hitting the bunny ranch. So you want me to end up like Lamar Odom? Thank you. I'm 2 hours north of Sacramento, California, says Ron on the all-night telethon. Chris Greer is a man with a plan, says Mob Rule. Super V, good morning, Big O. I appreciate you and Sean for making the sacrifices to bring the fans the content from different parts of the country. I know the time changes is difficult, especially when it comes to rest. Oh, dude, it screws up. It screws with you like, everybody knows when you travel. Don't you need a vacation from your vacation? No, we'll need a vacation from our work. So, although, don't feel sorry for me because it's only kind of a couple of days here where I'm discombobulated, but I'm here for 9 days. So, Sean will leave next week on Monday night. Monday night he leaves, and then I leave on Thursday morning. I leave. Friday we'll be at Hialeah Park, by the way. So we're back in action Friday, weigh in and everything ready for the event. Oh, by the way, we got to reach out to all of you winners for your boxing tickets also. Let's see. Jonathan says, afraid Greer's plan is to stock draft picks this year and select a QB next year Hope Tua throws a wrench in his plans. You obviously don't watch, Jonathan. That doesn't make any sense, dude. He's doing everything for Tua to succeed. Why would he want Tua to fail and then go back to the drawing board? What kind of logic is that, Jonathan? How is a GM planning to fail? The GM fired the head coach because all the head coach did was sabotage his draft pick. Do you follow what's going on, Jonathan? Are you here hitting those dispensaries? Is that what's going on? We're here, but you're smoking? I mean, some of you come up with some whacked up stuff, dude. Like, what are you thinking? Wow, man. Devin checking in from Atlanta. Thank you, Devin. And Jose checking in from St. Cloud. Wow. I like it. Sneak Attack says, super excited to be able to transition from the Heat and Panthers into Canes and Dolphins. Great time to be a Miami fan. Yes, it is. It is. And great time for us on this platform to get it going and work it, baby. Did you see Melvin Gordon ended up with a 1-year deal with the Broncos? Shows you where the running back position has gone to at $2.5 million. He can make another 1.5 in incentives. But it just shows you, man, that when it comes to the running back, and we'll see now on Friday or Saturday, we're going to find out if the Dolphins pick a running back in that third or fourth round. And that's why I bring this up with Melvin Gordon, because Melvin Gordon is a guy that has struggled to stay healthy. He's a guy that his first few years, he only had like 1,000-yard season. So he has been unreliable at times. Now he's been more reliable the last couple of years, but because of that, he has less value. And it shows you, look at Miami. Mostert got injured at the beginning of last year with the Niners. He was available to Miami. They brought him in. Chase, available. They brought him in. No problem. They're not paying him a lot of money. And one of the guys, obviously, in Mostert, he's on a 1-year deal. So Miami could easily draft a running back in the third or fourth rounds, and Melvin Gordon proves it to you, because the notion of having that bell cow back and having that guy that you're going to give the ball 300 times, it's just not the norm anymore. Derrick Henry is not normal anymore. Well, he's not normal anyway. He's not normal in any generation. He's probably Jim Brown before Jim Brown. I mean, after Jim Brown. You know what I'm saying? That's what he is. Jim was that freak in his time that people are like marveling at the size and the speed and the power. Kind of same thing here. He's our Jim Brown in a way. You know what I'm saying? So few guys are left like that. Plus, the NFL doesn't want to get into that because you've got to pay these guys. Look what happened with Todd Gurley. Look what happened with the Giants kid now that what's it, Saquon Barkley. It's become a disaster. Le'Veon Bell. It just does not pay off to give big money to a top back. It doesn't even pay off to have and draft a top back in the top of the draft, the top 5, top 10. It just doesn't make any sense anymore. So that's why Miami could end up picking a running back in the third or fourth rounds. So it's a guy that you have on the cheap for 4 years. And then if you want to give him a second contract, it's up to you. If not, you tag him for a year or two and then you let him go. And you use him up for 5, 6 years and you go get another guy. And that's kind of the way it is right now. Melvin Gordon, when you see that contract, it shows you. And that's why I wanted to keep you guys, thinking running back still in that third or fourth rounds. Of course, with one of the 2 7th rounders, they have that track record that they can do that also. But I think in the third or fourth rounds, there's going to be a very intriguing name or two at running back. and Miami's going to have an opportunity at one of those guys. So that's going to be really cool overall. Let's see. I am Irish, Miami Dolphin fan. Yes, I'm from Ireland. Been following the Miami Dolphins since 13 years old, and I'm now 22. Now that's 9 years. Fins up. And Tyrone, you are the most special fans in the world that we've ever had in the Dolphin fan base. All of you young fans that I see out there, you folks are special as hell, because they have given you nothing to root for, and you root for. I had Shula and Zonka and Greasy and Marino and all these cats, and I had all the good times, and so I have a lot to lean on and to hold hope for. You know what I'm saying? But young people, my lord, I see Dolph Freaky on Twitter, and she's young, man, and I can't imagine how it's like being a young fan like that you don't know great Dolphin football. You know about it, you read about it, you watched it on YouTube, but you didn't live it. You weren't in the Orange Bowl, screaming your head off, making Ron Jaworski take one timeout after another after another. There are just moments that we all got to live. Those of us that were, obviously around. And for young people, they don't get to lean on that. You know what I mean? It's like, at least we have a carrot dangling for us older fans. We remember what it was like. So we're hoping that you can, recapture. It's kind of like that relationship that is dying, right? The traditional thing, the relationships that dying, but there's love there, but it's not as connective as it used to be. There's that synergy is not there, and the couple is trying to rekindle and trying to reignite that fire so they can kind of have some of that energy they had when they first met, that kind of thing. That's us older fans. Us older fans, the Dolphins and us are kind of, we're trying to rekindle that love and trying to juice it up, and we haven't been able to. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things. So young fans are amazing because you have had nothing to root for. All right, Heat fans, young and old, they've had everything to root for, man, except for our first couple of expansion years, and it was still fun rooting for Alan Ogg and company. By the way, rest in peace, Alan. So yes, it was fun, and it is also fun to get to our liquor split Miami Heat report with Anthony Chang.
Let's tap into the latest with the Miami Heat and our liquor split app Miami Heat reports with insider Anthony Chang. Liquor Split is Miami's own online liquor store. Download, then tap the app and get your favorite liquor delivered to you for just $2.99. No risk, no drinking and driving. Tap that app with Liquor Split. Here's Anthony Chang.
Is the man, the myth, the legend that is Anthony Chang. How you feeling, my man? You feeling good?
Doing good, Big O. How are you?
I am doing good. Cannot complain. I mean, the Heat did their job. They got the boys eliminated. Did you see Mad Dog Russo?
I did see that. Yes. I did.
And I worked on that channel, and I like Mad Dog.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good dude. I think we all get to the point where we're a little too old in our points of view, and we don't adjust with the times, and that's kind of the way he sounded. And I was ready to jump through the screen because the part that Stephen A didn't tell him is, do you remember that Larry Bird was lying on the floor every time he couldn't sit on a bench? Is that what you want with Jimmy Butler?
Right.
You want him lying on the floor because his back is all effed up? And well, the part that, us older people, we have to adjust with the times is there's a reason why Earl Campbell needs a hip replacement. And that's because you ran them 400 times a year on carpet. And there's a reason why Larry Bird, and there's a reason why what's it called? Bill Walton has fused ankles and shit like that, because they did things that nowadays you don't need to do, because we understand medicine now. And part of it is kind of taking care of these guys' bodies so you can have them long term. Plus, when here's the part that pissed me off also, and I can tell you don't watch the team, because Jimmy Butler has been the most selfless player I have seen pretty much in a Heat uniform outside of Wade and Bosch. Okay, Wade and Bosch are the most selfless players in the world because of the sacrifices they've proven that they made. But since Jimmy got here, and here's where I was dead wrong, Anthony, and this is a long ass question, but here's where I was dead wrong. I thought he was going to come here to be the man, give me the ball, score 30 a night. You see, I'm the guy. No, he came here to be the guy that's the leader, the man amongst men, the guy that is trying to get everybody else involved. And then if everybody else is not involved, okay, I'll take over, that kind of stuff. And to insinuate anything that's selfish or not right or whatever, it just shows on all levels, either you're out of touch with what's going on in the game, and you're certainly out of touch with the player and what's gone on this team.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I guess, first of all, things evolve. Just because things were done one way 20, 30 years ago doesn't mean they should be done that way now. Like you said, we know more about the science behind player health, behind the game. More knowledge is good, right? Like, that's why things change. Second of all, I think it's kind of a shame that is the conversation after that game, right? Like, that's what we're going to talk about after that game, that Jimmy Butler didn't play, and should he have played? I mean, they won without Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry. Like, the conversation should be about the Heat's depth, right? Like, the conversation should be about how the Heat overcame their absences, the Heat's defense without Jimmy and Kyle, what they did to Trae Young. That should be what the conversation's about, not after, when the Heat eliminate the Hawks 4-1.
I agree.
Should Jimmy Butler have played? I don't know. I mean, I just think, that probably shouldn't have been what was. I'm not going to tell anyone to talk about, but it was kind of surprising that that's where the conversation led to.
Yeah, I just, it's, to me, sometimes it happens. And listen, I have my moments where I'm the old man on the lawn too, dude. I'm 55, right? So there are things that maybe I fail to adjust to at times, and maybe I'm guilty of that also. But we do have to look in the mirror at times and notice, hey, things have changed, and maybe you shouldn't look at it this way. You should look at it the other way. The thing that I thought is, you just don't know the sacrifices he's made for this team, and so it's like, that's not the guy. That's just not the guy you want to pick on. Okay, the incident on the sideline between him and UD and the coach. Okay, well, that's something that we can be critical about. You know what I mean? It's just one of those deals. But I just thought it was. I found it humorous and out of touch, actually.
And Big O, I mean, honestly, and like, big picture, if Jimmy's knee is kind of, bothering him, you're up 3-1 at home, you just beat them without Kyle Lowry, don't you think you take a cautious approach and you make sure that everything's okay, as far, instead of pushing him in that situation where you have bigger goals in mind? You might need to play Philly or Toronto next, Boston or Milwaukee if you get to the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, things are only going to get tougher. So I understand, even if it wasn't, let's say Jimmy wanted to play, right? The Heat, I understand the Heat being like, no, we're going to be careful here because we have bigger goals in mind.
Right. Yeah. No, I have no problem with what went on in the end. Listen, you're a better team than Atlanta anyways, if you're both fully healthy. You're deeper than Atlanta anyways, and you're a better coaching staff than Atlanta, and you have a way better defensive disposition also than Atlanta. So I wasn't that concerned. I understood what they're trying to do. And listen, I'm more pissed off about the one game that you did give away, actually. because that maybe then you wouldn't have had to go through the thing of resting him and risking it. So I would have rather you sweep these guys. But hey, listen, now we can sit back and watch. Hopefully, Philadelphia and Toronto beat themselves up starting tonight, man. Right? I mean, that's kind of what you hope for.
Yeah, that could be a 7-game series. We'll find out tonight. I mean, Philly could end it, but wouldn't be surprising at this point. Toronto at home with all the momentum. If Toronto forced a game 7, and in a game 7, anything could happen. I know no NBA team has blown a 3-0 lead, but at this point, you can't rule it out with that series.
Remember, James Harden is on that team.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
so that while we talk about all these other, I see Doc Rivers trying to defend, his record because everybody's talking about how he chokes away leads and all that stuff. And by the way, if you listen to his explanation, can you really argue with any of it? It all made sense.
Yeah.
Really,
yeah.
2 of the 3, there was a legitimate reason, and especially the first one when he says, we were an 8 seed. What are you guys talking about, bro?
Yeah. Right. It's like, the fact that we even had a 3-1 lead is an accomplishment. Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So
you just never hear coaches talk. Like, I think that was the most surprising thing for people is you never hear coaches really talk about that or go, even though he was even though he was correct.
Never, ever. Right. Spo would have left you guys talking shit, whatever, the entire time. He would have let it go. Maybe he takes backhanded shots as time goes on. You know what I mean? Where he has a little subtle shot at some of you guys that might have done that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Spo would have never done. But that tells you how much it's built up in him, because we've been talking about Doc Rivers choking leads now for the last couple of years. And so that's obviously kind of gnawing at him, you know what I'm saying? And let me tell you, that's what I was kind of leading at is Harden, buddy, I have the spotlight on you, not on Doc Rivers, okay? Because somehow or another, you're the guy that's part of all the other equations that I've seen your teams fall short in all kinds of ways, okay? So, you made another excuse to get out of the Nets. Now, what's your excuse here? With Philadelphia. And so it's just one of those things where, to me, that's the guy that I'm kind of having a critical eye on in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's all eyes on him in this game, right? I mean, he's not played well in the playoffs. He really hasn't played that well since he got to Philadelphia. He has not looked like the James Harden of old. Joel Embiid is clearly bothered by the thumb. I mean, he's playing well, but he's clearly bothered by it. They need a big game from James Harden. They really
need a big game from Maxey.
And but Maxey has cooled off. I mean, he started off the series looking like Steph Curry. We knew that wasn't sustainable. He's cooled off. They need James Harden to be James Harden, especially without Thibault not eligible to play in Toronto, because he's their best defender, right? And so their defense takes a hit. They need to score points tonight. And Toronto obviously has a very good defense. Nick Nurse is, closest comparable to Spoelstra when it comes to coming up with a defensive game plan to shut down an opponent's best player. And he's been able to do that with Philly as the series has gone on. But James Harden needs to step up tonight. He really does. And, I think if Philly wins, it'll be because of him.
Yeah, I mean, boy, dude, that's some crazy stuff there. Health-wise, how is Jimmy? Is this something, the whole week off, does it look like Jimmy – I mean, I know that you cover, like, I don't know, it's the CIA or something, pretty much. I understand.
Kind of, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I was on that beat for 8 years, so, dude, I know how impossible it is to break the force field of the Heat. But what? It's the truth. We still don't know what Green was high on in that lobby. Think about that. To this day, no one knows what that guy was high on in that hotel lobby. It never got out.
Yeah, right.
Think about that.
Sure.
Okay? It's amazing.
It is.
Anyway, so what's your gut tell you? I'm sure we'll see Butler, but Lowry, does it look like this is something that he's going to have over a week, actually, right? Mm-hmm. He's going to have about 10 days, right?
9-10 days, yeah. 10 days pretty much.
So what's your gut tell you on that?
Yeah, first regarding Jimmy, like you said, I think he's more of a sure bet that he'll be ready for the first game of the series. Obviously, anything can happen between now and then in a practice, but I don't think the knee issue that kept him out of Game 5 is going to keep him out of Game 1 of the second round. From what I understand, if there was a Game 6 in Atlanta today, he would have been able to play in that game. So, it's one of those things where he's, you have to treat it and you have to be careful with it. It might be an ongoing issue, but it seems like he'll be able to play through it. With Kyle, hamstrings are tough. I mean, that's an injury you really have to be careful with, especially at age 36. So I don't know. I mean, every hamstring, there's degrees of hamstring injuries, right? From what I was told early on, it wasn't a serious one. We've seen him on the bench, pretty mobile. Like, I know he had a limp in the first few days after the injury, but in Miami last game when he was on the bench, he looked good. I know he wasn't running, obviously, but he wasn't really walking with much of a limp. So that's a good sign. The team returns to practice Friday, so we'll know a little more about where Kyle stands, if he's participating in practice, what he's able to do. I think there's a chance he's ready for Game 1. I think that's the hope, but I don't think it's as sure as Jimmy being available on Monday.
Yeah. Who was your MVP of the series against the Hawks?
Jimmy Butler. There's no doubt. I mean, I know they missed one game, but he was arguably the best player in the first round of the playoffs in the whole NBA. I mean, you look at all the advanced stats, what he did offensively and defensively. He was definitely the MVP of the series, maybe the MVP of the first round, just with what he did, I would say. And then after that, I mean, if you wanted like an unsung hero, I would say Max Strus.
That was going to be my that was the one that I wanted to see, that if you had to give the most the award to the second most impressive player in this series for you, who was it?
I would say a tie between Max Strus and PJ Tucker. Those two were huge. PJ was a beast. Defensively, I mean, he spent a lot of time on Trey, was really good as a help defender, did pretty good offensively, shot a high percentage from 3, made some runners. In Game 4 in Atlanta, they ran offense through him, and he delivered in that area as well. I mean, Max Strus, we've talked about him a lot in the past 2 weeks, but the way he was able to hold up defensively against the Hawks when they were hunting him was really impressive. And then obviously he does what he does offensively. So I think those two guys, I would say, were 2A, 2B when it comes to the MVP for the Heat in that first round.
Don't forget, folks, that download the Liquor Split app. Tap that app. Liquor Split, iOS or Android. Get your favorite liquor, soft drink, chips, all kinds of stuff delivered. Go to the website, check it out. You can see the full list of everything that they'll deliver. Flat fee of $2.99. No hidden fees whatsoever, like other services out there. You're not going to get that from Liquor Split. So download the app right now at liquorsplit.com or at your iOS or Android store. Tap that app with Liquor Split. All right, so Duncan Robinson. It's like I'm watching a guy in quicksand, and it's just like diminishing, need almost, which is kind of crazy when we're talking about Duncan Robinson now and a $95 million contract. But there were several games here where he was a non-factor.
Yeah, I mean, after that Game 1, he didn't really do much in that series.
He did hit more threes than Trey Young in the series.
Just based on Game 1 alone, pretty much. Yeah,
that's impressive. Okay, so.
Yeah, I mean, he did look. I'm not saying he won Game 1 alone, but he was one of the bigger reasons they won Game 1. Yeah. So give him that. But yes, again, we've had this conversation about Duncan Robinson.
Well, dude, after that game, it lifted me like, okay, this is where he belongs. Right. Here we go.
But I think
a lot of juice off the bench, and then no juice.
I think off the bench, this is kind of what he's going to be, right? He's going to be a situational guy where if he's hot, you leave him in. If he's not, you're playing, Max Strus more minutes. You're playing maybe Victor Oladipo in his place. I still think he's going to play most games, but I think the minutes will be different every game based on how he's playing. Fluctuate based on the matchup, based on how he's playing. Does he hit 2 of his first 3 threes? Is he being hesitant with the shot attempts? Spo does not like that, as we know. He wants him to be aggressive. He'll pull him if he's doing that. So I think it'll fluctuate based on every series, based on the games, based on how he's playing. I think you saw Atlanta after that first game. They really made it a point to not let him get off any, like he did in game one. That his looks were a lot more difficult after that first game. He didn't get as many open looks. So Atlanta made a point. So him out there, again, whether he's making them or not, obviously you want him to make more, but he helps the offense. But if he's not hitting threes consistently, this team is so deep that they can turn to Victor Oladipo. They can play Max Strus an extra 10 minutes. They could play PJ Tucker a few more minutes. And maybe Duncan doesn't play, 15 minutes, in a game. Maybe he plays 5 minutes because of a certain night he's not on. So I think it'll change from game to game.
That was my follow-up there. The emergence of Oladipo, I think, as we move forward and defense becomes a bigger part of the game to get stops. Well, wait a minute. I can get stops with some of my young guys. And you know what? Now, instead of Duncan, well, Oladipo is playing well now. He can help me defensively. He can help me as the facilitator. He can help me as a ball handler. If I'm Spo, I'm saying, well, wait a minute. I got to win. Oladipo's a better all-around basketball player. Could it end up becoming that Oladipo ends up taking time away from Duncan?
Yeah, it goes back to the conversation of when Jimmy and Kai are healthy, what skills do you need around them?
Right.
Around Bam, Jimmy, and Kyle. And maybe it is Victor some series where you need an extra defender because you're playing Philly and they have Maxey, they have Harden, and they have Embiid. So you need more defenders on the court. Boston with Harden, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, so maybe there is, in some series, you're going to need the extra defender, but I think also you can make the argument of around those three guys when they're healthy, you don't need an extra ball handler. You don't need maybe an extra defender in some situations. You need a shooter. And that's why Duncan Robinson has been playing over Victor up to this point until the injuries. So I'm not saying that. I don't know if that'll change. We'll see. I mean, Victor has definitely provided a very good argument to have consistent playing time. But I think the biggest we won't know what Spo's plan is until we see this team healthy again and what the rotation looks like in those games. I think Victor probably did earn some playing time, but I also think Duncan will still be in the rotation as well. How he makes it all work, I don't know because there's a lot of guys to play. But I just think, Duncan's outside shooting, I know he didn't shoot the ball well in the final 4 games of the series, is really important because your 2 best players, Bam and Jimmy. I know Jimmy has turned into a shooter now, but technically they're both non-shooters. So you need outside shooting in there to complement them.
Well, listen, after the Bosch years and then the journeyman years with Johnson, all those guys, nobody knows how to juggle lineups better than.
Oh, yeah.
So
we've seen the last 2 games. Yeah, we've seen the last 2 games.
Yeah, no, but the last 2 games is nothing compared to the blood clot years and everything else that went on. That guy's just absolutely amazing. So I never ever doubt Spo, and I never ever doubt you, my man. Follow him on Twitter at Anthony_Chang. Catch his work there at the Miami Herald, and catch him twice a week here doing his thing with our liquor split Miami Heat reports. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Big O. Talk to you next week. Enjoy Vegas.
Yeah. How can you not, baby? Be good. There you go. All right, Anthony Chang. That is our liquor split Miami Heat report.
You're now tapped into the latest with the Miami Heat. This has been the Miami Heat Liquor Split Report with insider Anthony Chang. Download the Liquor Split app and enjoy your favorite drinks at wholesale prices. Delivered right to your door in minutes with a flat fee of $2.99. VIP lifestyle without the VIP prices. Tap that app with Liquor Split. Time for the Lockdown segment with Florida Panthers insider David Dwerk. This lockdown is brought to you by A. Lenny Locksmith Services. Count on them 24 hours a day. Go to the website at alennylocksmith.com. Here's WPLG Local 10 insider David Dwerk.
All right, there he is. All right, good lighting and everything. You have better lighting than Anthony Chang, by the way. Okay, so props to you. Oh, wait a minute. We can't hear you. I'm not hearing him.
Oh, we got me?
Now we got you.
Okay. No, I'm putting up the ring light for I'm tired of all the criticism. I'm tired of getting trashed. So we'll have proper lighting every show now.
There we go. That's what we need. Proper lighting there. So That's proper lighting so you can see my ugly face. Anyway,
Yes.
really important question. Can I go bet the Predators tonight?
What are they? Home against Colorado or at Colorado?
At Colorado, bro.
They're at Colorado.
Yeah. I'm scoreboard watching here, bro.
That's a tough one. Maybe to jump on the Predators, like +1.5 might be a decent number, just because Colorado hasn't been playing so well, so it might be a tight game.
The empty net goal always saves your ass with that.
Oh man, yeah, for sure. No, that's a tough one. I'll tell you, like the last couple weeks, betting has been great because the favorites have been hitting really consistently and hitting a lot of spreads. But the last few days, with everybody getting locked up and teams resting guys, and it's been a shit show. So like I had a great 10-day stretch of run, and then the last couple of days has just been a nightmare. So I'm really like, you mentioned betting, and I'm just like, oh, what do I do tonight?
We're down to just winning tonight, and it's over, correct? Because that by winning, it's a 2-point difference, and the Panthers win the tiebreaker, correct?
No, actually, I think Colorado has the tiebreaker because it's regulation wins.
We have more than they do.
No, not in regulation. We have more wins, but a lot of our wins came in overtime in the shootout. Remember, the Panthers set the NHL record for most overtime wins with 13.
But they have 56. We have 57.
Regulation wins?
Yeah, wins.
That's overall wins.
That's overall wins.
Oh, that's what it.
Yeah.
I got you now.
Yeah, the wins in 60 minutes count extra when it comes to the tiebreaker.
46-41. I got you.
Exactly. So the Panthers have to finish ahead of Colorado. The magic number is 3 points, which means if the Panthers win tonight and Colorado lose in any shape, way, or form, then the Panthers clinch. The Panthers win out, they get it. But they're still they got to get that 3 points.
All right. So tonight, what do you think?
I want to see what the lineup shakes out first. I think we're going to see at least 3 or 4 guys, regulars, come out, which it makes sense. At this point, they called up the 3 guys from the AHL yesterday, and Ottawa has been a very good team over the last maybe month or so. Ottawa has picked it up, as has Buffalo. A lot of those teams. It's funny, like the way that the Eastern Conference shook out this year, with 8 teams kind of head and shoulders above. There was no real fun playoff race. There was no underdog trying to get that 8th seed. But you think about the teams that might have been in that 8th seed, if it'd been more competitive, it would have been fun. You don't think about Buffalo or Ottawa or those kind of teams, having a chance. But no, it's been interesting this year, and that's why I'm definitely not taking Ottawa lightly at all. Montreal tomorrow. Montreal hasn't been playing very well. That's another story. Last game of the season, but Ottawa is a team that I would not sleep on.
By the way, A. Lenny Locksmith, the proud sponsor of both our segments with David and with George Richards. Make sure you give him a ring. You see the number there, 855-869-5625. If you're locked out of your home, you need to replace your home keys. You're locked out of your car, you need to get in your car. You need to reprogram the car keys. You need new car keys. They do it all, and it's a 24-hour locksmith service. And by the way, they service all of South Florida. They've got locations in Orlando and in Florida, and another one in Phoenix, Arizona, as they continue to expand across the country. So, A. Lenny Locksmith, make sure you support the folks that support us. All right, so going into this game, it almost sounds like he's going to balance right now rest with still trying to win the President's Cup. So is there a tug of war inside that locker room? Because players usually want a President's Cup. I don't know, but I get a feeling that this group wants to accomplish as much as possible. Not just winning the Stanley Cup, but, pick up it's kind of like Zelda. You start picking up little things along the way, one of those kind of things,
Yes, great metaphor. I love it. No, honestly, I think this team, the opinion, the feeling in the locker room is if they take care of business, that everything will kind of fall into place. So regardless of which players are out there, because you've seen guys have been in and out of the lineup all year, and they never really hit a hiccup other than that one time at the end of December when it was COVID was here and Barkov and Duclair were both hurt. And that was kind of a hodgepodge of, a bad time. But aside from that, regardless of who's been in and out of the lineup, the Panthers have been able to play their game. So I would imagine that they're going to just kind of continue on that trend. There's never been a sniff of any kind of controversy or anything negative come out of that locker room all year. And when you think about what's happened throughout the year with the head coach getting fired, all that's or resigning and all that stuff happening, this team has just continued to be strong internally. And I think that's kind of fueled what we've seen on the ice. So yeah, the President's Trophy will be great. And by all means, they're playing against two teams towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings, teams that they've, had a good chance against throughout the year. So I don't think they don't like their chances regardless, even if Matt Kierstead and Cole Schwint and these guys from the AHL, and let's say Heponiemi, because why not? Let these kids get a shot. Let's show them what winning hockey is, what they have to look forward to. So I don't think that there's any discourse behind the scenes at all. I think they figure whoever's out there can get the job done.
All right, so George and I, he hasn't been as concerned. I get the feeling you're a little bit more concerned like I am. And he's, this whole thing about the Panthers have two good goaltenders. Yeah, but they don't have one great one. And so how important is it going into the Stanley Cup playoffs that somebody plays great? And if somebody doesn't play great, doesn't it become a pain in the ass for Brunette to try to figure out who the hell's got the hot hand from one night to another? I mean, I'd like to just it's the playoffs, dude. Settle down with one guy that is just on his head doing his thing. So what trepidations, if any, do you have with the goaltending situation with the Panthers, regardless of their offense and how explosive it is?
Well, you're kind of asking for like two extremes here with like, you got to have the hot hand or you've got a guy who's struggling and you need, who am I going to replace? I think with the Panthers, it's clear at this point they're going to go with Sergei Bobrovsky in the playoffs. I think to his credit, over the last couple of weeks, he's been playing maybe his best hockey of the season. He had those two disastrous games against Jersey and Toronto, which, you can't ignore. But you also looking at maybe the 6 or 7 games on either side of those two games, he's been pretty rock solid. And yeah, the leaky goals, I think that's always going to be a problem. I think for Bob, what the difference is, he's making more spectacular saves. He's making more keep my team in it, lift up the bench type saves, which is that I can live with that in the playoffs because this is a team, they're not going to score 5 goals a game every game in the playoffs, but they'll probably get 3.5 goals, 4 goals, a fairly high average, I would imagine, especially in the first round, regardless of whether it's Pittsburgh or Washington, they should be able to score on those teams. So I think it's going to be okay as long as Bob doesn't regress. And to his credit, he's looked like he's really getting focused, getting ready for the play. I mean, we've talked about goaltending probably every time we've spoken.
It's really the only little concern that I have for this. I'm not concerned about their defense actually right now, which is actually progress. I'm not really certainly not concerned about their offense. I'm certainly not concerned about the coach. He has shown me throughout the year after taking over that he's more than capable and has a good feel for that locker room. Obviously, the front office is top notch. There's nothing that I'm worried about except that's the only uneasiness that I have right now. I'm not telling you that, oh my God, it's a real worry like it's been in the past. No, but that's the only thing that I can say, damn, dude. I'm not worried about depth either on this team. I mean, no, got it all, dude.
They're set. And look, to the credit of the goaltending situation, we have to at least be grateful as Panther fans that at this moment, it's where it is, that we can say Bob is trending up, that he's playing maybe his best hockey of the season, because it easily could have gone the other way. And we could be talking about a goaltending controversy heading into the playoffs, because really that's kind of what it was at last season. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. 3 goalies start 6 games in a playoff series. That's a recipe for disaster. You can't have that again this season. So I'm glad that it really looks like Bob is rounding into the form. I think he'll probably start tomorrow. Well, I mean, maybe they'll throw the Johansson out there tomorrow. I really don't know what the plan is. I know Bob wants to play. He wants to play every single minute available to him. So if it was up to him, he'll be out there tomorrow in Montreal. But either way, just to kind of wrap up the point, I feel better right now about the goaltending heading into the playoffs than I thought I would a few weeks ago. And I'll take that as a win.
All right, what do you got coming up here covering the Cats at WPLG and chirping the Cats?
I mean, it's all about the playoffs right now, right? The team should be back in the next couple of days, and we can really start honing in on an opponent, whether it's going to be Washington or Pittsburgh. Hopefully, we'll find out in the not too distant future. But I mean, at this point, whichever one, you're either getting Alex Ovechkin or Sidney Crosby. In the twilight years of their career, they're still spectacular Hall of Fame players putting up ungodly numbers, but maybe not as scary as they were, 5-6 years ago. But I mean, either way, the Panthers are going to have a good test, and they're going to have to take down, a team that's won the Stanley Cup in recent years, whichever one it is. So I think there's going to be a lot of focus, at least for me, on who they're playing against, matchups, who the Panthers are going to be putting out, how the lineup. So it's all going to be about what it's going to show, what it's going to look like for Game 1, which is coming up in just a few days. I am super hyper focused on the playoffs right now. I'm so excited about the playoffs, Orlando. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm with you there. I got a little distracted because, as you know, let's show. We'll tell people how the meal is made at times. So, when other people are coming up, they pop in, and so Ira pops in and he's eating while you're answering questions. So the question I have for you is, after when we do bring on Ira in a moment, was Ira eating cereal, oatmeal, or was that something else? What are we going with? The
first thing that popped into my head was cereal. That's probably what I but you see, you never want to have the milk and cereal close to the computers because a bad sneeze or something. So I don't know. Ira's a very thoughtful guy, and a Panther fan as well. I've seen Ira at Panther games in the past. But yeah, I think cereal sounds more yummy, but oatmeal is the responsible decision. So maybe I'll go with oatmeal.
It is the healthier choice out of
yes.
The two. There's no doubt about that. So I'm going to go cereal. You go oatmeal. We'll find out in the next segment here when we go into inside the paint. All right, my brother, tell them about Chirping the Cats radio or podcast.
No, just now we're reminiscing. There'll be a playoff preview episode coming up in the next few days once everything gets ironed out and we kind of know what we're going to be focused on. There'll obviously be a lot of content at Local 10 as well. I will be at hopefully every playoff game. That's the plan. And yeah, I mean, really, it's just let's ride. I'm at the point now, Orlando, where it's like the table's set. Bring me my food. Let me eat. Let's do this.
I'm with you there all the way, my brother. Follow him on Twitter at David Dwork. Please subscribe to his podcast, Chirping the Cats. And, of course, catch his work there at Local 10. Appreciate you as always, my brother. We'll catch up next week.
See you then.
Got it. There you go. It's our lockdown segment. LennyLocksmith.com.
This has been the Florida Panthers Lockdown segment, brought to you by A. Lenny Locksmith Services. Count on them 24 hours a day. Call 855-869-5625 or go to the website at alennylocksmith.com.
All right, we are back. Let's bring the boys aboard. Let's get our answer as we watch Ira eating a little, I don't know what kind of breakfast that was. So what was it, Ira?
It was my Trader Joe's steel-cut oats with some almonds and banana because you might as well start the day healthy because who the hell knows where it's going to go from there.
Yeah. Tell me about it. We're in Vegas. It is what it is. What can I tell you? How you guys doing? You guys feeling good?
It's good to see you. We've had a full extra day, Clay and I, for our show prep. We've updated the show sheet based on last night's results. And how ironic to see O in the hotel trying to get the internet work after literally the first thing when I do is I check into a hotel and I just put on Skype with a self-test to see if the video works and the audio works so I don't get yelled at by Big O. So Big O, good luck.
Well, wait a minute, but this was at a bar. It wasn't at the home. This is the home. We're at an Airbnb, so everything's fine here.
All right. So clearly you were drinking during setup. Okay.
They fixed it, but actually, I don't know, but Mad Dog came out and said that you guys were selfish, that you didn't do the show yesterday. You were lazy, like Jimmy Butler. I mean, come on, dude. What is wrong with you guys?
Hell, we were here. Matter of fact, like Clay had a good point. He said, "Stay connected. Then we can get paid for this one also." So I think we're along for the ride.
That is awesome. But before I'm sure you guys are going to talk about it. Look, I worked on his channel and everything. I like the guy. He's a legend in our business, but sometimes you're a little out of touch here. And look, I'm 55. So I have my moments of old man get off the lawn thing and all of that. And I think that was an old man get off the lawn and an out of touch Jimmy Butler thing, because he doesn't realize how much that guy has been selfless and has sacrificed. Behind Wade and Bosch, this is the third most selfless player I have ever seen in Heat history. So that's not the guy you pick on in Jimmy Butler.
No, and I think you have to take the circumstances into consideration. Had that been a Game 7, Jimmy Butler was playing. I mean, they would have done whatever they did. They won't say this, but I don't think there was ever a concern within the Heat organization that they were going to lose that series. And, look, I do know Game 3, obviously things would, but I think they looked at Game 5 as, hey, we feel like we could still go to Atlanta and win a Game 6. It's not worth putting the extra stress on Jimmy Butler's knee or Kyle Lowry's hamstring. And Ira, I think you reported that there was some optimism that had they been forced to play,
they would have been there in Atlanta. They would have traveled. They would have played if they would have had to. This was very cost analysis, risk benefit. Again, like I wrote in my story, the playoffs are not about the Heat getting past the first round. The playoffs are about winning a championship. So you say to yourself, it might sound arrogant, how do we get to 16 wins? Not how do we get to 4 wins? And that was the bigger picture. But I got to say this, and I don't want to bandwagon here, but the whole thing about the Heat not getting the national respect and all of that compared to what we do here on the Big O Show and on our weekly Sloman's Home Security Inside the Paint show, I think national people have to reach for stuff for the Heat because they're not well-versed enough. Everyone knows about Ben Simmons and James Harden and Kyrie Irving and the Knicks and Thibodeau and the Lakers. But all of a sudden when they're like, okay, we're doing a segment today on First Take on the Heat. And they're like, the Heat, like who do they have? And I literally think they're like scrolling the roster to see who's on the Heat and looking at the stats because there simply is not a lot of national insight on the Heat. So when
no superstar, we're not sexy.
No superstar, and also they don't do this. They don't talk. They don't. There's not.
They're not allowed to.
Yeah. Well, there's not the leaks from within the organization to get stuff out there. I think everybody knows that Daryl Morey and Adrian Wojnarowski. I mean, like anything, Woj is almost like Morey's PR guy in many ways. The Heat don't do any of that stuff, and so it's like, to Ira's point, when you're looking for stuff, it's like, oh, okay, Victor Oladipo's not playing. So then you have Skip Bayless go on and say, oh, it's because Jimmy Butler doesn't like playing with him. And then all of a sudden that becomes a thing. I mean, you do have to manufacture that sort of stuff. But the bottom line is, and we're going to talk about this as the show goes on, the Heat's goal was not beating the Hawks. The Heat's goal is winning an NBA title, and it doesn't make sense to risk either one of your top players in a Game 5 when you can close them out with a Victor Oladipo, a Caleb Martin, a Gabe Vincent doing what they're doing, and you don't have to force those guys on the floor, get them some extra rest so they're ready to rock next round.
And let me tell you something, to add something, Ira, because that's the other thing. I wanted to jump through the screen at Mad Dog when I saw that whole exchange, because I wanted Stephen A to tell him, I guess you don't remember Larry Bird on the sidelines having to lie on the floor because his back didn't allow him to sit down.
Plenty of stuff like that. I mean, you know what?
I'm not
turning that show on until I look across the desk from Stephen A. Smith and I see Clay Ferraro. Otherwise, I'm not going to watch. And he's part of the ABC family, ABC, Disney, ESPN. It makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I have thoughts on the format of those shows. Maybe we'll get to them one of these days. Maybe we'll during this segment.
It's bottom line. Hey, listen. Let's get behind the scenes. It's what I told you guys a while ago about. I don't mind you guys disagreeing, but I want it to be a real disagreement.
Disagreement.
I don't want manufactured disagreements. Right. I'm never into that shit. That's not who I am.
This whole thing started with Skip Bayless jumping on the Tim Tebow bandwagon years and years ago, and their ratings went through the roof because they realized, oh, he's so polarizing, Tebow is. So it turned into this, LeBron. This is what gets
LeBron too.
LeBron was another one. I mean, there's a difference between what Mike and the Mad Dog used to do, which was absolute, genuine disagreement. Like, they would go at it hard. But then and the Tim Tebow thing was what started it all. And you saw it on SNL. I mean, it just, I could go on and on with this. But
you know what? Let's get to the show because we're going to debate first segment, Javonte Smart, Tim Tebow, better baseball player. So that's how we're going to start.
There you go. One hardcore hour of Miami Heat and NBA talk coming your way right now with the Slomans Inside the Paint Show.
Oh, great. You have a doorbell camera. Now you have a front row seat to your house getting robbed. Don't break into my house! Ooh, there goes the TV. I'm sure it'll turn up at the pawn shop. No, not the TV! Just because you can see them, that doesn't mean you can stop them. With Slomans, you get 24-hour monitoring, a free home security system, and professional installation. Plus, free doorbell camera, one that'll actually work for you. Get out of my house! Get out of the house! Call 1-800-ALARM-ME.
NBA fans, it's time for the Slomans Home Security Inside the Paint Show with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro. 1-800-ALARM-ME to protect your home with the best in the business. Slomans has been serving customers for nearly 100 years. Nobody covers your home like Slomans Home Security, and nobody talks Heat in NBA basketball like Ira and Clay. Here's Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Clay Ferraro, Ira Winderman, along for the ride with you guys as the Miami Heat are moving on to the second round of the playoffs. And, you know, Ira, Game 5 almost feels like more than 36 hours ago at this point. But I do think it's worth going back. And we're going to spin this thing forward. We're going to talk a lot about the potential upcoming matchup. I think we still probably both feel like it's going to be Philly, although I am absolutely not dismissing the possibility they could blow this thing entirely. But I want to look back.
Doc Rivers blow a playoff series? Never heard that one.
You know, and that was the thing too, Ira. Like, I heard him talking yesterday.
That was scary, yeah.
It's like that made me think more that they've got a chance of blowing this thing because he's in his own head.
He's preparing for it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think we have to talk about Victor Oladipo. And, you know, we started the crosstalk by discussing the whole Jimmy Butler thing and the fact that he didn't play. But the victory in Game 5, thanks to Victor Oladipo coming on and starting for Butler and doing what he did, in particular in that first quarter, Ira, it was like a storybook type of thing. And I'm trying not to get like too overly sentimental about this, but this was not coming out in his first game against Houston. This was not coming out even in Game 4, where I thought it was great that even though he couldn't throw the ball in the ocean, he was doing all of the things that the Heat like you to do to impact winning. This was him coming off the bench and starting for an all-NBA caliber player and going out and replicating largely what Jimmy Butler would have done for the first 3 quarters or so. You can tell he kind of ran out of gas a little bit in the fourth quarter, although he still had enough at the end to put the defensive pressure on. I feel like he did more in Game 5 than I thought he had at any point since he's been in a Heat uniform to solidify himself and give himself a chance to get back into the national spotlight, not really just this year, but moving forward, and also probably made himself a lot of money in the process.
Yeah, I mean, that one moment, and again, I'm living in the moment a little bit more because we're in the playoffs, and it's a pretty damn good moment for the Heat, and where I kept fending off the, no, he's not a rotation player, no, it doesn't work here, no, they need the spacing. My ask Ira at sunsentinel.com today was whether he should replace Duncan Robinson. It's a very hard argument not to make.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
Things are changing. You know, I think right now we saw Dwayne Dedmon play 2 minutes the other day in Game 5. So I think if the other opposition goes small, I think the Heat can go small. So let's just talk about wings off the bench. First of all, Victor Oladipo is not starting. Now, I know Clay, you can go right to our chat board now. I know that'll be populated with all kinds of suggestions there about that. Look, Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry, if they're healthy, are starting. No one's going to disagree with that, Clay. You need the spacing in the starting lineup. Well, the Heat decided their spacer of the moment is Max Strus. No one is arguing after Game 5 about Max Strus. And, of course, PJ Tucker and Bam, the power rotation. So you know your first wing off the bench is going to be Tyler Herro. Before, I used to say, I was saying on the show every week on our Slomans Home Shield Inside the Paint show that it was always Dedmon and Herro at 6 and 7. Not so sure about Dedmon anymore, but let's talk about wings. You know Herro is going to be that guy. Well, we also know right now that Caleb Martin looked pretty good in his minutes, and he certainly is an energizer when healthy. He's another guy. Gabe Vincent, remember, he's not going to start once Kyle Lowry comes back. Hopefully, the thought is Lowry's back Monday. I don't think you can summarily remove Gabe Vincent. He has simply earned it. I think you'd agree with that, Clay. So if you have Tyler Herro, Gabe Vincent, and probably Caleb Martin as all your wings, you only have room for one more if you're playing small ball. Victor or Duncan Robinson. And Clay, it's hard for me to justify a guy who went scoreless in 2 games against the Hawks and had 3 points in 1 game. Yes, he had the hot start, of saying that he should definitively be ahead of Victor Oladipo. So it's
and he's a defensive
call.
liability. If he's not hitting those shots, then why is he playing?
That's what I wrote in my Ask Ira today. I said, usually to play for the Heat, you have to do more than one thing. And certainly if your one special thing is not happening, the 3-point shooting for Duncan. Matter of fact, Clay, I'm going to put you on the spot, and I mean this seriously, not to pick on the guy, okay? But seriously, so I'm going to let you try to formulate this in your head. What is Duncan Robinson's second best NBA level skill? And I'm not trying to demean him. I actually want you to come up with a list right now. So Duncan Robinson's best NBA skill is shooting / 3-point shooting. Number 2 on the Clay Ferraro scouting report of Duncan Robinson, what's the second best thing Duncan Robinson does?
He's gotten a little better at driving to the basket, a little bit. But is it an NBA level skill? No. But now in today's NBA, and this is, I think, getting to your point, if he is on with that one skill, then it does enough to help the team in other ways when it comes to the spacing, allowing your slashers to get to the bucket and stuff like that, that you can justify the fact that he's going to be a defensive liability and other teams are going to target him. But if he's not, he can't play. He simply can't. And that's it's not like it's the brutal reality of the situation where you can afford during the regular season to try to allow him to work out of things. But if you have a game and he goes out there and he misses his first 2 shots, it's do or die, man. Like, you can't afford to try to placate his feelings and make sure that he's going to be okay. No, you got to go with the players who give you the best chance to win. And what we've seen from Victor Oladipo, and the thing that impressed me the most, Ira, and this kind of answers your question, my whole thing with Vic was always, number one, he needed to be ball dominant in order to be effective. In game 4, he wasn't. He was in the sense that he was getting to the basket and then kicking it out. But even though he couldn't throw the ball in the ocean, he was still finding a way to impact the game. If Duncan Robinson isn't throwing the ball in the basket, he's not impacting the game in a positive way.
So I want to take it here, Clay. I'm going to give you the easier part here because I just put you on the spot, okay? So I'll let you go 1 and I'll go 2. Clay Ferraro, let's go through the Heat's reserves right now, like I mentioned. What is Tyler Herro's best NBA skill? I'll give you an easy one. Here's your softball.
Yeah, shot making, shot creation.
Shot creator, number 1. And then I can say, hey, he's a damn good rebounder also. Yes, so you can put that in there also, okay? I'm going to go now. Clay Ferraro, going to make it easy for you. Clay Ferraro, what's Caleb Martin's best NBA skill?
I would say energy, athleticism, especially on the defensive end of the floor, but then also being able to jump. And he's also gotten pretty good at being able to knock down, especially the corner.
Okay, well, I want to take part 2. Don't be hogging this stuff. So you're saying he hit 1.
Fair enough.
So I was going to jump in and say, okay, and number 2, he hits 3-point shots, and maybe not as a spacer, but as an open the court. Clay, I'll give you another softball. Gabe Vincent, what's his best NBA skill?
I'd still give him defense, even though he's been scoring.
And that's fair. And then I'd come back with his career skill of being a really good 3-point shooter, especially as a street 3-point shooter. Clay, another softball to you. Victor Oladipo's best NBA skill.
You know, it's funny because it's not a softball after what I saw him the other night. It's a compliment to him that I think he's starting
Pick one. Don't be a hog.
I would still say defense. I would still say his ability.
Okay, and then I would say an attacking offensive player, attack mode player. So we've gone through the 4 other wings, or 4 other wings there ahead of Duncan Robinson. We said with Duncan, finding number 2 is difficult. The one thing I will say about this, because the good thing is we have these juicy bits of 5 straight days of debating the Heat rotation since they don't play till Monday anyway. I do not believe, and not because of Skip Bayless or any nincompoops out there, that Victor Oladipo can play with Jimmy Butler. Not because of animus or anything, because as I wrote at the Sun Sentinel, I think their games are too similar. I think the things that Vic wants to do, Jimmy wants to do. I think the things that Vic wants to do defensively, Jimmy wants to do. So it might be a case, if Jimmy is playing 34 minutes, there might only be 14 minutes for Vic. Now, in a closing lineup, defensive situation, just at closing time, I could see them together. But in rotational minutes, I think that's the problem. So I think what you and I are going to go from here, Clay, is after months of why, or weeks after why isn't Victor playing, I think we're going to go more now to why isn't Victor playing more minutes? because Heat fans, it's always something with you out there and on the chat board. But I think that's the thing. If Victor Oladipo does not play in game one, I think metaphorically we could storm the court, because I think that'll be a high surprise. No, not real, not insurrection at the Heat house here, but I think that would be a surprise. But I do think, Clay, it complicates things for Eric Spoelstra. Some people have come to me and said, oh, this is the last thing Spo wants. Now what does he do? No. As Eric said, would say, these are rich people problems. These are first world problems. He'll deal with it. But it's going to be an issue.
He's a big boy. He knows that this is a good problem. And Kane's 1989 asked this in the chat. We're getting a lot of great comments, a lot of great questions. But just to kind of put this thing to bed, the whole Skip Bayless report, if you want to call it that Jimmy Butler doesn't like playing with Victor Oladipo.
Refused to. No, he was stronger. Let's be honest, Clay. He said refused to play with Victor Oladipo and almost treated it as animus and a near hatred when he gave his comment.
It's garbage. What I will say, I think, is more what you just said, which is it doesn't make sense to have the two of them on the floor for long stretches on both sides of the court, because they do things so similarly. But you saw when Jimmy Butler is out, Victor Oladipo steps right into that role. And when nobody else could hit a shot in the first quarter, he kept you alive. I mean, that game, they could have been down by 12, 14, 15 points in that first quarter if he hadn't been doing what he was doing, because everybody else was tight. Even though they were getting open shots, they couldn't hit him. Then late in the fourth quarter, after he kind of got a second wind, who was the one pressuring the ball, much like Jimmy Butler would be doing? So it's not that Jimmy refuses to play with Victor Oladipo or doesn't like him. It's that it doesn't make sense to put two guys with the exact same skill set out there. And look, nobody's saying that Victor Oladipo is on Butler's level at this point. In extended minutes, when you have other players who are more complementary and can get you to the goal of winning. Now, at closing time, when you need guys to switch defensively, which, by the way, maybe not necessarily in this upcoming series, but if you're going up against a Boston and you're having to deal with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, oh, by the way, Derek Williams, who all of a sudden looks much, much better, that's when I think you could see that flexibility really help you out.
Yeah, and you know what? Just to talk to people, we were talking Big O in our crosstalk earlier about how the soup is made sometimes. I spoke to a scout yesterday and had him, and I wrote in the Sun Sentinel, who do you like? Who's better for the Heat, the Sixers, the Raptors? And we went through the matchups. I could easily see an insider or a scout or someone with the team telling Skip Bayless or a media person, yeah, I think if I'm Jimmy Butler, I know it doesn't work alongside Vic. From a strategic standpoint, from a playing style standpoint. In other words, if the Victor Oladipo trade didn't happen organically for Kelly Olynyk and Avery Bradley at that time, I think if you would have gone to Jimmy Butler and said, hey, we might get Victor Oladipo, what do you think? I think Jimmy, who really synthesizes the game, might say, love Vic, but I'm not sure our games mesh. I'm not sure that if there's a price tag attached to that versus another free agent, like instead of Kyle Lowry, who they were talking about acquiring at that 2021 trading deadline also, that's the best fit for me. So I think I got a feeling that's how that happened, is a genuine NBA person said, you know what? I think Jimmy Butler realizes the two of them don't fit stylistically, but nothing more than that. And instead, look, everyone gets the talking points. The aggregators had a field day. We get to fill the first 15 minutes here of Sloman's home security inside the paint with it. So I guess everyone's a winner except for Vic. And Vic played his way through that. I really enjoyed that moment in Atlanta when we were talking to them post-game on Sunday. They had their fun.
Tell them how much I hate you.
Yeah, no, that was the fun part. Spoelstra answering Ira Winderman questions, not as much fun, but hey, that's part of the deal also.
So I do want to talk about, too, like everything that led up to this. And, you grab bits and pieces of reports and it's hard to take everything 100% at face value. But I'm going to give you kind of a scenario of how everything's gone down with Victor Oladipo. And you kind of tell me if this kind of jives with some things that you have heard.
Sure.
Obviously, Victor Oladipo has wanted to be a member of the Heat for a long time. I don't think that is any secret. I think it was one of the worst kept secrets in the NBA. And certainly when he came up to Bam Adebayo after the playoff loss in the bubble, it was on front and center for everybody to see. Now, what I'd heard, I forget who reported this, there was some, I don't know if concern is the right way to put it, but that you've got this organization with the Heat that is uber competitive. And there were some people that weren't 100% sure of having a guy on another team coming over to you and basically saying, I want to play for you after a playoffs. There were some questions, I guess, about whether Victor Oladipo would have that maniacal competitive streak in order to fit in with this team. And so then he comes to the team and they get to know him a little bit. And, you're still kind of in that honeymoon / get to know you phase. And he goes out there and he had been okay. He had some flashes. Then the beginning of that Laker game last year, you started to see the Victor Oladipo of old. I mean, it was like, man, and then he gets hurt
on the dunk.
And I think a lot of people felt like there was a good chance that was the end of Victor Oladipo as a member of the Miami Heat. And then everybody in the organization watched him bust his butt to get back. And I mean, like, the type of intense grinding that it takes, man. And I know we can sit here and say it, but the type of like mental fortitude that it takes to go through the grueling rehab of contorting your knee and your leg in positions for hours just to try to get it strong enough to walk and then to go out there and compete with the best athletes in the game. It almost felt like to me, and this is where I'm going to bring it back to the other night. It almost felt like to me, Victor Oladipo became a member of the Miami Heat, a full-fledged member of the Miami Heat through his work to get back on the floor. And the looks of the faces on Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, as they watched him be able to go out there and play like he did, and then the smile on Bam's face it was like any questions that anybody may have had about him. And that's where, like, I'm not trying to be Disney guy here, but it was like, that's why that was the storybook moment to me, is it was like, not only did he rehabilitate his body to get up to where but his image and his competitive streak and everything that the Heat value. And oh, by the way, he did all of that to get them to the next round of the playoffs. I just thought it was an incredible story.
Yeah, no, as we head out to a break after this segment and go more into Raptors, Sixers, and better matchup for the Heat and really the big game tonight, I just want to say I spoke to someone in the Heat organization during this process when Vic's minutes were uneven. And they told me that they thought Vic would have been well within his rights to say, not this year. I wrote this story about this, called it a gap year, that he could have taken a gap year, that's what Kawhi Leonard did. That's what Ben Simmons is doing. It is not at all unusual when you have a major injury to take a gap year in the NBA. And I know people get up in arms. He's making whatever amount of money, in this case is the minimum, but that's what players do because these guys have such great pride, Clay. They don't want to come back as less than themselves. Pat Riley tells the story. He had a guy who wouldn't dress for a playoff game. And he said, if I needed you to get one rebound, to make one defensive stop, could you do it? And the player said, well, yeah. And Pat said, then get your goddamn uniform on and get out there. So for a guy to do that, a bunch of guys wouldn't do that. We've seen that between Kawhi and Ben Simmons and countless others. So I think that deserves praise also. Instead of people saying, what hasn't he done? How many games hasn't he played? That he still can't do X, Y, and Z. He gave it a chance. He had, no matter what happens from now on, he's already had his playoff moment, and that's a good thing. Now we get to see how he fits in against the Raptors or the Sixers.
And we'll talk a lot about that. And I do, it's a harsh reality of this thing, but all of the work that Victor Oladipo put in, we probably wouldn't be shining quite as much of a spotlight on it if he hadn't had that moment. So I almost think it's great that he was able to have it because it validates nationally and internationally, we know it's a big game, everything that he did to get back on the floor. All right, coming up next, we're going to spin this thing forward, look at the future matchups. But I do want to look back a little bit at what the Heat did to Trae Young. This may be one of the most stifling defensive performances, one of the most rattled I have ever seen an NBA star, and it was all because of the Heat defense. We'll talk about that more next, right here on Inside the Paint.
You're listening to the Sloman's Home Security Inside the Paint Show with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro. Big O listeners can get a free doorbell camera. Call 1-800-ALARM-ME. That's 1-800-ALARM-ME. When you're ready to purchase a new home or refinance the one you have, American Dream Lending will make sure your loan experience is easy with fast approvals and quick closings. With many loan programs and competitive rates, now is the time to turn your dreams into reality. Ask about special financing for veterans. They never charge an application fee and you will work directly with one of their experienced loan professionals. Stop dreaming and contact American Dream Lending today. 786-802-1727 or online at adreamlending.com. The Big O Radio Show is looking for an experienced salesperson in the radio or TV business. The candidate must have at least 5 years of sales experience in the broadcast business over the last 10 years. Please email your phone number and resume to bigoradioshow@yahoo.com. That's bigoradioshow@yahoo.com. Looking for an aggressive person who can help our platform expand into many avenues in our business. Reach out if you are the person that's able to make a difference. For over 25 years, South Floridians have counted on Tommy B. Butts Jr. Enterprises for their roofing needs. In South Florida, we battle the sweltering heat, rain, winds, and all kinds of tropical storms. That's why when it comes to protecting your family, home, or business, call Tommy B. Butts Jr. Enterprises.com. 954-735-9826 or 954-394-1411 and ask to speak to Tommy, the owner. They specialize in all kinds of roofs. All work fully guaranteed with the customer's complete satisfaction. A+ rated member of the Better Business Bureau. Licensed and insured. There's no buts about it. When your roof needs repair or replacement, go to TommyBButtsJrEnterprises.com. A certified widening contractor.
Oh, great. You got a doorbell camera. Now you got a front row seat to your house getting robbed. No. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Get out of my house!
Ooh, Mom's jewelry. There goes the TV. I'm sure it'll turn up at the pawn shop. No! Just because you can see them, that doesn't mean you can stop them. With Slomans, you get 24-hour monitoring, a free home security system, and professional installation. Plus, a free doorbell camera.
Free?
One that'll actually work for you. It's not total security unless it's the Sloman Shield. Call 1-800-ALARM-ME.
Welcome back to the Sloman's Home Security Inside the Paint program with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro. At Sloman's, we never charge for installation. There's no minimum requirements, no activation fee, no games. See how easy and affordable it is to secure your home at 1-800-ALARM-ME. 1-800-ALARM-ME. Here's Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro.
Welcome back to Inside the Paint, rolling on, and everybody's curious about what's going to happen next, and we're going to talk about the potential matchups of a Heat 76ers series, a Heat Raptors series, and you said you spoke to a scout, and I'd love to get some of the insight on that. As always, drop your questions here, your comments. I think they're great. Isaiah brought up a great point about Gabe Vincent. He said that him playing on the Nigerian national team really seemed to boost his confidence a bit and allow him to do what he's done this season. I do think it's a great point. When you play on that sort of a stage, then you get to the playoffs and it doesn't feel quite as mammoth of a task when you're out there on the floor. To that point, the way the Heat iced Trae Young was unbelievable to me. And I think you and I were on the same page with this, Ira, that we felt like the Heat would be able to come up with a good plan to slow down Trae Young, and they were going to force other players on the Hawks to beat them. I don't think that we could have foreseen what the Heat did. And I got to give StatMuse credit for this one. There has been no player in the NBA playoffs in the three-point era to have fewer than 25 field goals and more than 30 turnovers in a single series until Trae Young in this series. That is mind-blowing to me. More turnovers than made field goals in this series. He also had more turnovers than assists, of course. What the Heat were able to do to him. And look, we saw the Heat do this with a much different player in Giannis Antetokounmpo a couple of seasons ago in the bubble. And by the way, their defense was still effective on him last season in the playoffs, even though the Heat got swept. It's just that everybody else was able to beat them. So they're able to come up with a plan to slow down one guy. But the way they did it to Trae Young and the way they got inside his head and how rattled he was and complaining about officiating, I can't remember the last time that I saw a true bona fide star. And make no mistake, that's what Trae Young is. I can't remember the last time a true bona fide star is rattled as the Heat had Trae Young in this series.
You know, Clay, I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to say it had absolutely nothing to do with Trae Young. Instead, it had to do with the ineptitude and incompetence of his teammates to play 4-on-3 and not find a way to succeed. So
and that's fair.
You mentioned Giannis last year in the playoffs, and the Heat were swept, and you thought the Heat, and I agreed. They built their wall. They did a good job against him. And his teammates picked up the slack. And Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis and whoever else was on the floor, Pat Connaughton, they picked up for it. Trae Young, if I'm him today, I'm not mad at the Heat or anything. I'm looking in my own locker room. And I'm like, what the F? We got Bogdanovic. We've got Danilo Gallinari. We have John Collins, even with one hand. We had for 2 games Clint Capella. Like, we had DeAndre Hunter. What the F? You guys could not have been given an easier assignment. There will be 3 Heat defenders to defend 4 of you. So whoever the guy isn't defended, just get a goddamn basket. What's easy? What is easier than that? To be an NBA level player, Kevin Herro, we could throw in there also, be a first round draft choice. Almost all of the aforementioned players were. They were playing 4-on-3. If you go and take the video and run back the pictures of that game, there was probably more time if you go to Second Spectrum or some tracking mechanism when Trae Young had 2 people on him than when he didn't, than when he only had 1 person on him. So when you look at that series, I put this a lot less on Trae than I do, 1, on the Hawks coaching, that they didn't have a game plan. We're playing 4-on-3. This is easy. Mm-hmm. And the other players for not stepping up. Now, he didn't play Bogdanovic alongside Trae, and I understand the defense would have been horrific, and that was a problem for them anyway. But you're talking about a team that did nothing for years but collect first-round talent. Another one of those teams, they sit back, they get draft choices, they trade players out, they get more draft choices, and then you wind up, the other guys couldn't get it done. So yes, everyone is talking about the failures of Trae Young in the first round of the playoffs. I think what everyone should be talking about is the rest of that godforsaken Hawks roster and locker room and how they offered no support. He should sue his teammates for non-support play.
Okay, and I'll give him a little bit of a softer cushion with that, but I'll say this too. Some of the shots that he was taking, just as a perfect example here, we were watching the game in our local 10 newsroom, and I felt like every time Trae Young got the ball, I exhaled. I was like, all right, good. He's going to do something ridiculous with either he'll take a 35-foot shot, he'll make a poor pass. Like, there was no concern for me that Trae Young was going to bring them back. Now, on the flip side of that, was really concerned every time DeAndre Hunter touched the ball in the fourth quarter. And now what I wonder is, at what point did the Hawks just figure out too late that DeAndre Hunter was good enough to go 1 on a half and take whoever was guarding him to the basket and do what he did? Was it just that they figured things out too late? I did feel like there were times where Trae Young was forcing the issue because the Heat were doing what they did to him. So I'm sure there's a middle ground.
And because
there.
No one else was doing anything for him. So it's like, okay,
fair.
We've had 4 games of someone else trying to help and no one has shown up. So maybe me 1-on-2 is better than the options. And as far as DeAndre Hunter and what he did, it's almost like football. I think the Heat were in their prevent defense. I think they were saying as long as we score, it's okay if they score. So we're going to put a focus on that. And at this point, we're up 3 points. We're up 5 points. We'll just match them basket for basket. And that's the way they played it. The bottom line is Trae Young's supporting cast wasn't good enough. And if there's a team that has to make major offseason moves in the East, remember, this is the 9th place team. This was not a shocking result. This was the Hawks being who they were for the entire 82-game, 21-22 NBA season. They played as a 9th seed in this playoff series. This is the way it played out. That's why you get the number 1 seed. Just like Brooklyn played like a number 7 seed.
And I don't want to talk too much about this, but I did bring it up on the show sheet, so I want to touch on it. And you mentioned coaching. Eric Spoelstra, I thought, had a couple of master strokes, and he did it 2 different times, coming up with the full court pressure defense. And it was both times he did it. It was in game 4. And I shouldn't say the only times that they did it, but the times that he went to the well, you saw it in games 4 and 5. And it was when the Heat were kind of in this place where in game 4, once they were down 7, and they hadn't gotten anything going whatsoever, Eric Spoelstra calls the full court press. And after Bam Adebayo made free throw, Jimmy Butler jumps up, intercepts the inbounds pass from like 40. Looked like a really athletic defensive lineman jumping up and taking it out of a quarterback's hands, and then scored and won after that game was over. I mean, they went on the 21-0 run or whatever. And then in game 5, so stagnant offensively. Then he calls the press, and then boom. Yeah. I mean, after that, it was over. So I think as much as we're criticizing, and with good reason, the Hawks coaching staff for not figuring out a way to find someone to Trae Young.
Right.
The Heat and Eric Spoelstra realized in those 2 moments, we need something here. We need something to give us a boost in this game. He went to that, and it worked. And so for as much as we like to criticize the spotations and criticize whatever coaches may do wrong, credit to Eric Spoelstra for what he did right there.
Absolutely. And again, the out coaching thing tends to be overstated, but you know what? There are some coaches who are great regular season coaches and some coaches who are playoff coaches. And Nate McMillan's whole career, even in Indiana, he always had very good regular season success. And then we saw that in 2020 in the playoffs against the Heat, and then they imploded, and then he was out of a job. Maybe we're looking at another one in Doc Rivers. We have to say, yes, he won his Big Three championship at Boston, but otherwise it's been quite shaky for him in the postseason. Eric Spoelstra adjusted through that series. He adjusted by playing certain players at certain time. It's like the scout I spoke to yesterday about better coaching. And the scout said, look, if they play Philly, I'm giving Eric the advantage by a wide margin, what he does in the playoffs over Doc. If it's Nick Nurse, Nick's really good at that also. Nick will throw different defenses. He'll go zone. He'll go 5, 6, 9 players at you. So that'll be a little bit more of a chess match there. But yeah, it was clear when I did my little matchups, the old time kind of thing, I gave coaching to the Heat over Nate McMillan for that reason, and it very much played out that way. Eric Spoelstra had a very good coaching series.
So let's spin this forward now, and I want to start here because you had that conversation with the scout, and so I, not to be negative here, but after speaking with the scout and the potential matchups for the two teams that the Heat are going to play in the next round, one of the two, what are your biggest concerns? What are the takeaways from talking to that scout? Like if I'm sitting here and I'm a Heat fan, what should I look for in the first game, 2 games of whomever they may play to where they're going to say, if this happens, this is something that we felt like could be a problem heading into the series. What kind of insight did you get?
Well, if it's Philly, it's Joel Embiid. And everyone's looking at that the thumb injury and it's surgical and he's going to need surgery after the season. If Joel Embiid can be dominant Joel Embiid, then I think the Heat, that's the one answer they really don't have. They just don't have that size. It's Bam doesn't have the size to match up with them. Dwayne Dedmon doesn't have the quickness to match up with them. So that's going to be a concern. So you have that on that side of the Philly ledger. And the scout was really interesting. He said on the other part after that is that when you look at it with Toronto, they could put out 5, 6, 7, 6, 9 guys out there. Just Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby and Anunoby. I always get that wrong. Anunoby and Scotty Barnes and Precious Achiuwa. In which case, Jimmy Butler has struggled at times against size, and they could possibly smother Jimmy with size. Again, I'm not talking elite level talent beyond Pascal Siakam, all-star level talent, but that would be a very unique look. And again, that would be a whole bunch of puppeteering there by Spo and by Nick Nurse. Can they get the matchup they want? Can the Heat force a different pace? Can the Heat go bigger? Can they crash them on the board? So that would be more of a chess match. So I think in the game one, which will be Monday at FTX Arena, it's whether Joel Embiid goes off and it's like the one unstoppable force in the series is the Sixers big man, or it could be, hey, is this versatility of Toronto going to give us a bunch of 91-87 games in this series?
Is there one of the two that the scout or you in speaking to the scout felt like would be a better matchup for the Heat? Like if I'm a Heat fan, I'm sitting there saying, okay, this is the team that I would rather play between the two. Is there a clear cut between the two?
What the scout told me is, and I was surprised. I'm a little more concerned about Philadelphia. He said no. He said they don't play hard. He said that team's not together. Wow. He goes, that team has a bunch of issues right there. And he goes, Harden's been terrible to this point. Now, I always, you know what, Clay, you know what this brings me back to? And I spoke about Big O and our Acura Pembroke Pines reports, and I've spoken to you here about our Sloman's Home Security Inside the Paint show. This is sort of the same fear I had about Brooklyn. So in my mind, Kevin Durant is great. In my mind, Kyrie Irving is great. Neither were great against a great defensive team in Boston. But in my mind, I still see James Harden and what he's done over the years against the Heat. So in my mind, in my memory, I still think of James Harden as great. So I was surprised. So the scout said, look, I'm picking the Heat either way. Heat over the Sixers in 6, feel pretty good about that. He goes Heat over the Raptors in a hard 6, in a much more grueling series because they have the bodies to wear you down. And I thought that was really interesting. So he took the Heat both ways, as would I. I think the Heat are going to wind up playing the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now that Chris Middleton is out for that Boston-Milwaukee series, we can predict that down the line on another Sloman's Home Security Inside the Paint show. But yeah, I think the Heat will be okay against either team. But I do think both teams have things that make you stop and give pause.
And so I'm very it's really fascinating to me to hear that, because I've kind of felt the same way about Toronto. When we were back a few weeks ago, kind of trying to pick out what the first round matchups were going to be, and this is when we weren't sure if the Heat would be the one, or the thing that concerned you about Toronto was that they could just make your life miserable for 6 or 7 games. That they don't necessarily have the star who's going to grab hold of the game. Like I think we both thought that KD or Kyrie Irving or even an Embiid, James Harden type of player could do, but they could mitigate that by just being so in your face, constantly complaining about officiating. I mean, just like nonstop, annoying. Nick Nurse on the sideline with his face shocked whenever they would call a foul on Toronto. But it would be annoying. It would be grinding. And that if the Heat were able to beat them in the first round, they would make their lives tougher than, say, an Atlanta or a Charlotte or the other teams that we were, Cleveland, the teams that we were discussing at the time would. Then Toronto went on that little bit of a run, and I still feel like it's the same sort of a problem. Now, I'm a bit more concerned, I think, with Philly because of Tyrese Maxey, even though he hadn't played that well the last couple of games. And it seems like Toronto's length is kind of getting to him a little bit. But I would say I'm more concerned about Philly than I think the scout is. But if you ask me right here today, if this were a game 7 tonight, I would prefer that Philly wins tonight. I would prefer that Philly wins, moves on. Now, I'd kind of like to see this thing extended to 7 regardless, just because you like that wear and tear to set in on whoever wins. But I want no part of playing a Toronto team that has that sort of ability and also just made NBA history potentially by becoming the first team to come back from 3-0, because you know that thing that they have where they're always going to be in your face and grinding. Like even if they get down 3-1, they're going to be like, this is nothing. We came back from 3-0 last series.
And I want to give you one more point there, Clay. Last game in Philadelphia, the fans booed. If the Heat play Philly and the Sixers are playing poorly there, well, I think it's Wells Fargo Arena, I think they'll boo their team. That's what Philly teams do. I think Toronto fans will never give up on their team. I think the Raptors could be down 15 with 5 minutes to go when they will be up on their feet, imploring them to move forward. So again, the Philly fan base, they booed their team in the playoffs. It's like you don't do that anywhere but Philadelphia. So I think that's a factor also. I think Toronto will be a harder building to play in. I think because of customs and the travel, which the Heat aren't used to when the Raptors are, and COVID testing, that'll be another issue. Last time the Heat went to Toronto, Eric Spoelstra tested positive and was away for the team for 5 days. You have to test if you fly back into the United States. That's another element at play there. We just saw Zach LaVine wind up testing positive, missing a big final game for Chicago there. So you do have those elements. Bam Adebayo tested positive on the eve of the playoffs. So there's a lot more components compounding things there with Toronto. It'll be fascinating either way. It won't be a walkover. It won't be 4. I don't think it'll be a gentleman's sweep. Both those teams are good teams.
All right, coming up next, I want to get a little bit more into the matchups. I also want to talk about, Ira, I want to get your take on the injuries that kept Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler out of Game 5. Kyle Lowry, obviously, before that as well, and kind of spinning it forward and where you think those guys may be as the next series starts. That and a lot more. Plus, make sure to load up your questions, your comments. We're going to get to them in this live segment right here on Inside the Paint.
This is the Sloman's Home Security Inside the Paint Show with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro. Check out Sloman's low-cost monitoring rates and how it could save you thousands on a security system at 1-800-ALARM-ME. That's 1-800-ALARM-ME. The Big O Radio Show is looking for partners to join our growing platform. If your business is ready to reach an audience that starts in Florida, crosses the nation while expanding internationally, this is the program that provides that vehicle. The Big O Radio Show is ready to broadcast live anywhere in the world to represent your event or product. To reach out by phone, 786-754-4664. That's 786-754-4664. Or email bigoradioshow@yahoo.com. Help us grow as we provide the content and personal connection corporate entities will never achieve. South Florida's premier law enforcement agency is now hiring individuals like you. The Fort Lauderdale Police Department is now accepting applications for non-certified and certified police officer positions. Minimum requirements and qualifications can be found at flpdjobs.com. That's flpdjobs.com. Are you ready? The city of Fort Lauderdale is an equal opportunity employer.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or innermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where inner Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
For over 16 years, EJDconstruction.com has provided South Florida residents quality craftsmanship, accurate project management, and exceptional service. That's why EJDconstruction.com is an A-rated member of Angie's List and the Better Business Bureau. When you're looking for the right custom home builder for additions or home remodeling, please call my friend Eric at 305-433-4843. That's 305-433-4843 for EJDconstruction.com.
Oh, I think I know what this is. Houston, we have a package. Hello?
No matter where you are, the Sloman Shield home security system guards your home. With next-gen perimeter protection, 24/7 monitoring, and interior motion sensing. And right now, get a free Sloman Shield security system and doorbell camera, all professionally installed, for free.
Shield your world, the Sloman Shield.
The timeout is over. The Sloman's Home Security Inside the Paint program with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro is back. Access and manage your devices from anywhere with the My Sloman's app. Protect your family by calling 1-800-ALARM-ME. Here's Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro.
Welcome back to Home Stretch here on Inside the Paint. I want to get some of your questions and your comments, and a couple of them come regarding Tyler Herro, and I'm going to combine two of them here. Joshua Matthews says that from what we've seen in the playoffs, Tyler Herro can't carry a team. He's somebody who is going to be a really good role player, but he can't carry a team. Isaiah points out that teams can choose to shut down Herro because it's like it takes away one option, and if you're going to pick your poison, you're trying to go after the guy who maybe scares you the most offensively. What I'll say about this is I think we sometimes forget, because he's already had big moments and high leverage moments in the playoffs, is Tyler Herro is still only 22 years old, right? So I think there's still another level that he can get to. The other thing I'll say is that Trae Young kind of let out some company secrets after game 2, I think, where they made it clear that their goal was to not let Duncan Robinson and Tyler Herro beat them offensively. So I felt like throughout that series that there was going to be a point where Tyler Herro was able to turn it around and really get it going, and there would be a game where he would go out there and steal him a game. He didn't. He had a couple of good offensive moments, but nothing like you were expecting. I'm going to be curious to see what it's like as they move on to the next round and teams maybe choose to take somebody else away. Is that the moment when we see Tyler Herro step up? And if they're making Tyler Herro play you left-handed, and that allows somebody else to play you right-handed. So it almost felt, Ira, more to me like a game plan schematic thing. They were able to take him out of what he did, but at the expense of letting other guys get off, which we were able to see.
Yeah, I think also Tyler was bothered by a nagging injury. I haven't been able to get anyone to tell me what that was, but I heard there was some talk there about him possibly even taking some time in that series. You have that element in play there. I think more than that, Clay, I think you have an element also where it's like what you said. If something's going well elsewhere, don't be a pig. Don't think you have to get your 20. In game 1, if Duncan Robinson's hitting his 8 threes, let him hit his 8 threes. If you're having a game where Jimmy Butler's going off for 45 points, let him get his 45 points. Or when he's going off for his 36 points, let him get his 36 points. So I think that's smart play also not to force the issue there. Was that the best of Tyler Herro? No. But you know what? For anyone to say Tyler can't carry a team in the playoffs, I know it was the bubble, but people get over it. What he did against Boston in that series when they went to the NBA Finals in 2020, Tyler Herro's had his big moments. And this is what happens when you're going to be named NBA Sixth Man Award winner. You are someone who's going to attract attention. So yes, Tyler got to play under the radar a lot. But again, last 2 games, they're missing Kyle Lowry. It's even easier to focus on a Tyler Herro. Last game without Jimmy Butler, same thing. So again, there is a little bit more focus. You do have to lift your game a little bit more. But there still were enough moments when the Heat needed relief points in that series when Tyler delivered them. So I still think he's more than capable. He is absolutely getting his 30, 35 minutes a game for the Heat going forward. He was good enough in that series, and clearly there's still another level.
It's interesting to me. You mentioned the injury thing, and if I'm not mistaken, he did fight some knee issues throughout the season, inflammation, just nagging, I think is the word you used.
Exactly.
I think we can think back to that. Something I found really interesting the other night, and this is kind of getting inside the weeds a little bit. I thought it was interesting when Eric Spoelstra came out before Game 5, and he said, yeah, well, Jimmy, the knee was a little bit of a thing. He woke up feeling better this morning, but we're still not going to play him. And then quickly the Heat clarified that what he meant was Jimmy woke up and he was feeling worse. And I'm not saying it's because there's a chance they could have gotten fined if a better Jimmy Butler would have bet he should have been on the injury report the day before. But I'm saying there's a chance. And if there is a lingering issue for Tyler Herro that we haven't been able to discern, the fact that it hasn't been on the injury report doesn't mean anything, because there could be something they're just saying, look, he's going to play, so we're not going to worry about it. All right. The other comment that I want to attack is from the greater good. He said, and he asked a question, has James Harden jumped the shark? And for those of you who are not from the old days of Happy Days and know the term jump the shark, there was a moment in that series where Arthur Fonzarelli got on water skis and
Henry
jumped
Winkler,
over
for
a
those
shark.
who didn't watch, Henry Winkler.
Yes. He jumped over a shark in the series, and so people view that as the point where where Happy Days kind of started to go downhill, because they're like, all right, this is too much. This series has now gotten as high as it's going to go, and everything from now on out, we're going downhill. I think you can say with James Harden, the rule changes impacted him as much or more than anybody else in the NBA. I think he was also impacted a bit by the new basketball. We saw a lot of players, Duncan Robinson in particular, Paul George, CJ McCollum talked about it being an issue. I think age eventually sets in. I think you have this combination of all of these things to where, I think we've seen the best of James Harden. That doesn't mean that he can't come out and have a good episode every now and then like Happy Days did back in the day. But I think that if you're game planning against Philadelphia, Joel Embiid is the thing that is the guy who you're terrified of. He is the person who you're game planning against. To me, the guy who is second scariest on that team, and it's not particularly close, is Tyrese Maxey. And it's because not just the fact that he can score, but
I agree.
The Heat don't have anybody who is explosive enough and superbly athletic enough to keep him from getting the basket on a consistent basis. Now, they're really good, and they have guys like Gabe Vincent, guys who can slow him down to a certain extent, but he's not like Trae Young, where you can throw bodies at him. And Trae Young's crafty, right? He's going to juke one way, go the other. His strength is not like his explosive speed. I mean, Trae Young and James Harden are similar in that respect, whereas Maxey is just, he's a bowling ball going downhill 100 miles an hour. So to me, and this gets back to the question about James Harden, to me, he's either the third or the fourth player that you're most concerned about with the Philadelphia 76ers if Tobias Harris comes out there and he plays like he did at some points in this series. So I agree. I think he's jumped the shark. Doesn't mean he can't beat you, but it does mean that you're not as concerned about him being their second option as you would be 3 years ago.
He looks like an old man. He looks like an old man trying to play basketball. And it's not.
And this is why we're good. I spend 2 minutes trying to kindly say something, and you just
But that's what he does.
It's
you watch him and you go, my God, what the hell happened to that guy? And again, it's not a chronological or ageism thing, because Jimmy is older, because Kyle Lowry is older. I'm just saying these guys are in their 30s also, but they have found a way to sustain their careers. Dwayne Wade certainly did it. And yet you watch Harden and he's fumbling around with the ball and you're like, what the hell has happened to him? Conditioning has a lot to do with it. We saw the pictures last year in the Rockets uniform. It's like, oh my God. And he's like, no, that's just the camera angle. But also, this is a guy who forced his way off of two teams with lethargic play. You can't just pick it up like that all of a sudden again. Now, that said, maybe he can, because he has some unbelievable skills, but I think the Heat will be disciplined enough that I think what you said is right, Clay. If James Harden tries to be the number 2 option and gets in the way of Tyrese Maxey, I think the Heat are all for that. We saw what Maxey did in the team's 4th meeting this year when they sat Harden and sat Embiid, and he was terrific, and he won that game in Philadelphia. So if the Sixers game plan reverts to Embiid is the number 1 option, but Harden is number 2, the Heat will go, perfect, we're good for that. We're set up for that. as long as you don't have this little snot-nosed kid, from Kentucky running around here creating problems again, we'll deal with that. That's why it's interesting. When we discuss Philly, which of course should win the series because no one has ever blown a 3-0 lead in the history of the NBA playoffs, so I understand our focus there, but there are specific players you look at as problematic. I'm not sure even with Toronto and Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet, God bless him, you necessarily look at it going, we have to control this guy or we lose. The Heat looked that way at Trae Young in the first round. I think they looked that way at Joel Embiid and maybe still James Harden in the second round. But I don't think there's a Toronto player that has a big circle around him on the top of the Heat scouting board say, kill the head of the snake. Because I don't know where the hell the head of the snake is when it comes to the Raptors and the way they play. Could be Scotty Barnes for all we know.
Oh, yeah, and that was the other thing is in the games where they were blown out, I think Scotty got hurt in the first one, right? And then he missed the second game.
Correct.
Because, the impact that he's made on that team is great. Now, to your point, he's still not the guy that, like you're saying, hey, the last thing we want is for him to consistently get the ball and go ISO in the fourth quarter of a game. So when you're looking ahead to these matchups, and this is where we're going around the NBA, we're going to look at this from a Heat-centric point of view. We could talk about the Western Conference at another point. Fred VanVleet is doubtful for tonight, right? And I don't know if there's any update there, but he didn't play in the last game either, and they're able to go out there and win. If they're able to win without him, I think he kind of solidifies that point that you just made, that he's a guy that I think concerns you a little bit more than anybody else on the Raptors team as far as him getting the ball. And
maybe Siakam, but okay.
Yeah, but as far as when I saw the Heat play him, he's the guy who's more likely to get his own shot whereas with Siakam, I'm okay with Bam guarding him. I don't think that Bam's going to let him get away.
PJ Tucker.
Yeah. But yes. So I'm okay with that. Whereas with Philly, there's nobody that you are 100% comfortable going up against Joel Embiid. There's as great as Bam is defensively, and I think he would take that challenge. And I think, by the way, he's seen that he doesn't have to do a whole lot on offense for them to win. He can just focus specifically on defense. Joel's still going to get his. So as much as Toronto scares you in that they're going to make that series a grind, I'm not sure they scare you enough to where in 4 games they have somebody who scares you enough that they're going to make the play to win 4 ball games throughout a 7-game series. Could happen, but I doubt it. So if it is Philly, then I think it gets back to exactly what we were saying, that these are the matchups that you're concerned about. I do want to talk a little bit about what we saw in the Boston-Brooklyn series.
Sure.
And so we only got 5 minutes left. I think it's a combination of things. Number one, I think we all absolutely underestimated just how good Boston is. I think number two, it doesn't hurt that Udoka came from Brooklyn and knew a bit about what made those guys tick and was able to kind of implement defensive schemes to really make their life miserable. And hats off to him. It was a heck of a coaching job. The last thing I want to say is when I heard Steve Nash up there lamenting the fact that they didn't have the continuity, that the guys didn't play together, and he was just kind of shaking his head and almost laughing this is all we can do. Ira, it took me back to game 1 of this regular season when the Heat went out there with a bunch of new guys, had never played together before in their entire lives. They went out there and they absolutely annihilated the Bucks in game 1. And it was because they busted their butts in training camp to get ready for the regular season. Ira, if a bunch of guys care enough about the common goal to go out there and work hard and coalesce, it doesn't take that long. It does. You can, and I understand Kyrie Irving wasn't able to have this consistent practice schedule with the guys. He wasn't able to play the games throughout the course of the season, but you had enough time to where you could get guys on the same page and you could play at least to a level where you don't get your butt swept in the first round. So the problems in that organization run a lot deeper than chemistry and coalescing. And I do think Boston deserves a ton of credit, but to me, that series was more about Brooklyn and just not coming together when they needed to the most.
I think it was more about Boston because I think Boston's defense has been top of the league since midseason. Again, like the Heat sort of did with Atlanta, they found a way to smother you. This is the playoffs. This is where you get. Why did the Heat win the other day by 97-94? These are the scores you get. This is what happens. The game slowed down. You have to be able to win on that side of the ball. That's what the Heat did in their series. That's what Boston did in their series. That's what Milwaukee can do in their series also. You have to succeed on that side of the ball. The other point is if Trae Young was being defended 2-on-1, and we spoke about Atlanta, therefore could not beat 4-on-3, winning that way, I think you could look at it almost as if that the Celtics were willing to commit 3 defenders to Durant and to Kyrie, and the rest of the Nets couldn't win playing 3-on-2. Mm-hmm. Depth of talent. I know people always downplay depth of talent in the playoffs. That is, you stars that win, and I agree with that. But if there is such a massive drop-off, as you will see with Philadelphia's bench, the way they're playing right now, that can make a difference. I know Bruce Brown had his moments, but those were garbage points. God bless him, and he's going to get paid because of it. Seth Curry was good, but not great. Andre Drummond played his way defensively out of that series.
Claxton
can't make a free throw. Missed 10 in a row right there. So that's part of it also. Yes, depth can be overstated in the playoffs. I agree. But when you're throwing garbage out there with your stars, I think that's what happened to the Nets. They realized their big two needed more help. And Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving looked around, and there wasn't a goddamn person there that they could trust to help get them over the hump. That's why they had James Harden. That's why they tried to make it work until James Harden, by all accounts, quit on them. That was a team designed from the opening day of camp to be the Brooklyn Nets' big three. And then one of the big three disappeared, and they never were able to recover, and Ben Simmons never was able to show up.
By the way, this is why I love Ira. I go off on my rant about Brooklyn. He says, no, I think it's more about Boston. Here's why it's more about Brooklyn.
Yeah, but I think it's Boston's defense first.
I'm joking.
I think it's Boston's defense first, Brooklyn's roster second.
Yeah, and look, I think, fortunately or unfortunately, from a Heat perspective, I think the signs are pointing to you finding that out in the conference finals. And obviously, there's a lot of things that have to happen.
Really good, really well coached, a bunch of contributors. And again, when people ask me about Heat Celtics and why might you favor the Celtics, and I say because in game, I probably would take Jason Tatum over Jimmy Butler. No disrespect to Jimmy, but you also have that outside shooting consistency from Jason Tatum that you don't have from Jimmy Butler. So that will be a battle. That could be your 7 right there.
We got so much time to look ahead to that. Hopefully we're sitting here in a couple of weeks, and that's the series that we're talking about. But for now, enjoy Game 6 tonight between the Raptors and the 76ers. Whoever the best matchup for the Heat is, we'd obviously like to see that because we want to talk more Heat basketball coming up in the next couple of weeks. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. You guys make this show great. Make sure on the way out, smash the like button. It does us a huge favor. The Big O Show, live from Vegas, rolls on next right here on The Big O Show.
You've been listening to the Sloman's Home Security Inside the Paint Show with Ira Winderman and Clay Ferraro. With Sloman's, properly securing your home, it's never been easier and more affordable. See how little it costs to secure your home at 1-800-ALARM-ME. Sloman's Home Security Inside the Paint Show is mastered by executive producer Sean Stanley. Please search Big O Radio Show on most platforms and smash the like button. Welton Rayom has more than 62 years of litigation experience handling insurance disputes. They're committed to resolving even the toughest insurance claims quickly. Call them for a free consultation. 954-966-4646. At Welton Rayom, they don't get paid unless you win. Property damage claims to your home, business, or condo as a result of a hurricane. Welton Rayom can help. Water, mold, fire, smoke damage, Welton Rayom can help. Call 954-966-4646.
Why is it that you get locked out in the worst moments of your life?
Where are my car keys? Man, I can't find my house keys.
In those frustrating moments, you need a locksmith you can count on. A. Lenny Locksmiths in South Florida, from Miami to Port St. Lucie. In Central Florida, A. Lenny locks it down in Orlando and Tampa Bay. Lockouts or lock changes for home or business. Car key replacements and programming all model cars. 24-hour service. Call them at 855-869-5625. Go to the website at alennylocksmith.com.
The views and statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyAccess.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website.
The Big O Radio Show is brought to you by Sports Grill. Good food, good drinks, good friends. Craig's Inn Acura of Pembroke Pines, the #1 volume Acura dealership in the Southeast United States. The Fort Lauderdale Police Department. The FLPD is hiring. Go to FLPDjobs.com.
The Big O Radio Show originates from the OK Coin Studios. OK Coin is one of the largest fiat to crypto trading platforms in the world, founded in 2013. OK Coin offers advanced features for crypto beginners and high-volume traders alike, enabling users in 184 countries worldwide. The Big O Radio Show is mastered by executive producer Sean Stanley from the OK Coin Studios. When it comes to South Florida sports teams, very few in the media have witnessed, lived, and covered it like the Big O. Let's start the program dedicated to your favorite South Florida teams with a passion that's unmatched. The Big O Radio Show is on. Here's the Big O.
Okay. Now, there we go. All right. It's a beautiful thing. We are back as the boys just finished. Remember, it is an abbreviated program, so we're not going to be on very long. We are pretty much going to have a short session here with you guys. We're going to be on several hours tonight. So we will be back tonight at 5 o'clock, at 8 o'clock your time. I'm sorry, 5 o'clock our time. But 8 p.m. your time. We'll be back and ready to go. And then obviously on Friday, we'll be on at 7. And then on Saturday, we'll be on at noon. All right. So we'll start the draft with all of you and get you going. Those of you that are going out to the draft, by the way, be careful tonight. Be prepared because winds apparently are going to be picking up. Here's a story that just came through, and my buddy Eric Edholm, who works for Yahoo, is reporting 2 years ago Vegas lost the chance to host the draft. Well, Vegas will be the host now for the 2022 draft on Thursday night, round 1 in Sin City. There is no threat of the NFL being canceled or delayed at this time, with COVID not being an acute concern, but weather is. According to early forecast, winds could be something of an issue while the draft gets underway, although some projections call for the wind's intensity to peak in the hours prior to round 1 at 8 p.m. It could reach up to 25 miles per hour. So there you go. They have they have tendencies here in Vegas where they have times where the winds can really pick up and even faster than 25. That's just one of those things living in the desert that it could happen. So just in case, make sure that hat is tight so it doesn't fly off or anything along those lines. So be careful out there as you're going. We were already noticing last night, Sean and I were cruising the strip for the last time before they shut it down for the next couple of days. And the cops were like every other block. There were multiple cops on each side, and they had the rails ready to go. So they're going to be closing off all kinds of streets here in Vegas. All right. So tonight, remember Tommy Rockers. I was going to say Johnny. Tommy Rockers, and you can join us out there all week long. Let me give you the address: 4275 Dean Martin Drive. We're right on the other side of the Bellagio, on the other side of the highway. So it's the Strip, the hotels, then there's, I think it's Sammy Davis Way, the highway, and then it's Dean Martin, and we're right on that. So you get away a little bit from the Strip, which is a little bit crazy too at the same time. Music question. The B-52s will stop touring this year. Such an original, full of oddballs. Have you any B-52 stories? No, I don't really have any B-52 stories, except I've been listening to them since I was a kid back in the 70s, when they started in the late 70s, when the punk and new wave rave started, and they're just Hall of Famers, man. They're Hall of Famers and as original as it gets. That's the one thing you got to give them for. What else do we have here? I'm about 3 hours from Vegas. The Mojave Desert winds pick up sometimes, but usually from 1 to 5 p.m., they usually die down and casinos should be back, should block the winds. Well, we will see, right? Hopefully, listen, as long as it's, you know, as long as it's not too bad, they'll be all right. And everybody will be all bunched up. That'll be good. The winds will be taking everything out. I'm taking it with them. So it's all good. By the way, we're on a roll. By the way, we've hit our last two liquor split matchups of the night. Okay, we hit the Heat. We told you to lay was it 7? I think it was something like that, and they did it. They won. We told you last night to lay the 11 with the Bucks and the Bulls on our liquor split matchup of the night. Now it's time to find out what we're going to select in today's liquor split matchup of the night.
It's time to tap that app. And no one loves to tap that app like the Big O. Here's the liquor split matchup of the night.
Alrighty. Well, like I told you, we've been a little bit on a roll here. Tonight at 7 o'clock, we've got the Sixers and the Raptors. The Sixers are coming apart. Right now, they are favored on the road by 1.5. Over and under is 210.5. 76ers minus 120 on the money line, and the Raptors are plus 100. So Vegas, the wise guys are still giving the Sixers the love. And I know Doc Rivers is explaining why his team has fallen short several times. And by the way, he has some pretty good explanations, I got to say. But I'm going to go Raptors here. They're going into Jurassic Park. Those people are going to be nutbags. That's one of the best fan bases around. They're going to be crazy. That arena is going to be electric. The outside is going to be, loaded. I think the Raptors are going to win this game. So I'm going to take the 1.5 here, and I'm going to ride the Raptors tonight. And obviously, I'm hoping that the Raptors can actually win it because we want them to extend this series to 7 games. We want as many overtimes as possible, and we want them to beat each other up also as much as possible. So I'm going Raptors plus 1.5, baby. That is our liquor split matchup of the night.
The matchup of the night is brought to you by Liquor Split, Miami's own online liquor store. Liquor Split. Download then tap that app and get your favorite liquor delivered to you for just $2.99. No risk, no drinking and driving. Tap that app with Liquor Split.
Beautiful thing. We love it at Liquor Split. As always, remember a flat fee of $2.99. No hidden fees, nothing. So as you get ready for the playoffs and you're watching the Heat and we got the Panthers right around the corner, Inter Miami is red hot. The Marlins are over 500 at 9-8. It's pretty amazing, by the way. I got to say, I'm really amazed. But there's so many good things going on in South Florida sports right now. You're going to kick back and enjoy it with the family and the friends. Liquor Split, man. Download the app, iOS or Android. Tap that app. We love it. And you can get this too, Edge Energy Drink right there. You can get it at Liquor Split. Now, if you want to get 10% off the best energy drink on the planet, use my code BIGO wherever you live and order it, myedgedrink.com. Support the people that support us, folks. Let's go, myedgedrink.com. Use our code BIGO to get 10% off. I like it. All right, so when we sometimes have this thing called business and sports, and they collide, and when they collide, it's called the KSDT Sports Business Minute. All right, so this is a great story, Dolphin fans, or current Texans fans, if you want. And here's a story of a guy that a mistake ended up costing him millions. and he's going to have enough of a sense of humor to end up at least making money out of it. Lord knows that Chris Greer has taken so much out of that Laremy Tunsil trade. He's still milking that trade till next year. It's still going on. So Laremy Tunsil, as you all know, on draft day, the Bong mask came out, and he was supposed to be taken top 5 pick, maybe number 3, number 4, number 5, something like that. And he falls all the way to 13 to the Miami Dolphins because of the Bong mask. Miami then ends up taking him. So we tell you about crypto all the time, don't we? We tell you how cryptocurrency is going to end up taking over. Decentralized financing is the future. Banks are going to be crippled immensely. Okay? That's why if you talk to anybody in the banking industry that you bring up decentralized financing and crypto, they're probably going to give you some stuff because they know their business is pretty much, it's a fuse now. That's all. The sands of the hourglass are falling because they know that it's coming to an end, unfortunately, and they've got to switch careers overall. Well, Laremy Tunsil is smart enough to get maybe the ugliest moment in his life that obviously gave him the kind of notoriety that he didn't want. So Tunsil now is turning a tough moment by announcing that he's making his infamous draft day gas mask bong video into an NFT for charity. So Tunsil says the non-fungible token, the NFT, was minted on Wednesday morning, and there's one of one, adding that a portion of the proceeds that it nets will go towards the Last Prisoner Project, an organization designed to help those who were jailed for cannabis offenses. He plays on an offense, okay? That was offensive. But anyway, so he says, I'm officially moving on and putting this moment in the past. I'm minting one-on-one NFT of the infamous gas mask video to be listed. Portion, and he talks about the benefits and all of that. He says, for the past 6 years, I've been asked about this moment, the gas mask. I spent 6 years trying to do, rather than say on the field or off the field, fall of 2021, I spoke with at Complex for the first time about this moment. And today, the day before draft day, boom, and he announces it. So we will see. How much do you think that NFT is going to go for? I think it goes for $5,000, $10,000.
I was thinking 10,000, but
I don't think it's going to go for 50 or 100 or anything like that. But I can see somebody with cash throwing 5 or 10. Somebody that's a fan of the college he played at or the Texans, something like that. Or for the charity, or somebody like dude, what's the name of that? Is it Jonah Hill, the one that smokes a ton of weed and writes? Seth Rogen. It's Seth Rogen. I can see a Seth Rogen effing around and buying it for 10 or 15,000, 20,000 for the hell of it. I can see the guy from Barstool Sports. What's his name? He's a trip, dude. He's awesome. God, what's his name? The guy from Portnoy, isn't it?
There's a Portnoy.
Isn't it Mike Portnoy or something like
that?
Yeah, that dude's awesome. He's a genius the way he has built Barstool up, and so I can see somebody like that that's got money, and it's a great Barstool can use it as a tool to bring more attention to their channel. You know what I'm saying?
Somebody said, imagine Chris Greer buying it.
Oh, that would be funny. That would be funny. That would be awesome if Chris Greer would buy it. That would be great. Big O, I love your show, and I'm happy for all your success. It's our success. It's our success. And it's always going to be our success. Because if you don't call KSDT, we won't be around. And if you don't use EJD Construction, we won't be around. And if, you don't use Liquor Split, or if you don't drink Edge Energy Drink, we won't be around. And the show won't be around. So I appreciate all of it. It's watching. It's smashing the like button. It's visiting our sponsors. We tell you all the time about visiting our sponsors. All of these things are what's going to keep us here and what's going to allow us to grow and go all over the place. So we don't grow without you. Without you guys watching and supporting us and our sponsors, and donating, whatever it is. So really, it's our success. It's not Sean's success. It's not my success. It's our success. We're up to 16 people employed on the show. 16. We're not even a year in for restarting this whole thing, and we're 16 people in already and growing. And we intend on adding more. It's just one of those things. So I appreciate it, but we're not here without all of you. Okay? There's no freaking way. So it's our success in a big time way. What do we have here? Question: is LeBron and Wade's game similar, and how that works? Jimmy and Depot should be fine. Actually, LeBron and Wade's game are not similar. They're both great players. They'll figure it out. They make too much of that stuff. Thanks for the KSDT sponsor a few weeks back. They were awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. KSDT is a class act, man. They are an amazing company. Really an amazing company. If you need to do your taxes personally, professionally, for your business, they are the company. No doubt about it. What else do we have here on the show to ask? Big O, enjoy the draft. I'll be watching the next 3 days. Well, we will be cranking the next 3 days for you, my brother. Dolphins should bid for it since we benefited the most. I think the city of Miami will bid for the draft, man. There's no doubt that I think they will definitely bid for the draft. Now, will they get it? That's a whole different ballgame there. Yes.
I think he's referring to Tunsil NFT.
Oh, will he buy it?
The Dolphins should.
Oh, the Dolphin. Oh, no. The organization will buy it. That's not a look for them.
Because they benefited the most.
Yeah, it's true. Well, Chris Greer should buy it because he's the one that traded, and he's the one that's traded again and again and gotten more picks out of it and extended it. So if anybody, because it's really not the Dolphins doing, it's really Chris Greer's doing. So I would actually give it to Chris Greer more than anything else. By the way, if you want to get in on the Welt and Rayom text line, it's 855-912-1056. That's 855-912-1056. If you want to get in on the Welt and Rayom text line, you can also reach out to us on Twitter. That's at Big O Show. Follow us there on Twitter at Big O Show. Always, you can. It's like a 24-hour talk show there that goes on Twitter. We got. Remember, we'll be at 5:00 over at Tommy Rockers. So join us out there at Tommy Rockers for the NFL draft. If you're not in Vegas and you're anywhere else in the world, we'll be back here on the YouTube channel at 5:00 to do it and do our thing for 5 hours. You never know. The Dolphins could end up making a move. And I know those of you out there are saying, well, the Dolphins don't have any picks, and there'll be plenty of Dolphin talk on the show. Tons. And there'll be ways for us to drive it through the Dolphins. Now, like I did with Melvin Gordon. When I talked about the story of Melvin Gordon, I tied it into the Dolphins, because you can always do those kind of things to kind of compare situations and things like that. So you can always weave it in. Big O, my time this past for my Delaware half marathon was 2 hours and 34 minutes. I'm glad you and Sean are Tommy Rockers. Hope both of you kick some ass the next 3 days for the draft. I will be watching. G from Pennsylvania. G, thank you as always, brother, for the hardcore commitment that you have to the show, man. Very kind of you. How we doing? I don't think we'll trade into the first round, but could you see us somehow sneaking into the second? I wouldn't put it past them sneaking into the first or second rounds. Now, I'll be honest. And I'm not telling you because, I want you to tune in because we will have it for you, and it's possible. I don't think they're going to trade their picks for next year at all. At all. Now, if there's a stud that they think was supposed to be a top 10 guy, and somehow or another he's in the second round, for whatever bong mask reason, to bring it full circle, maybe I can see them saying, we got to have this guy and trade one of our picks next year for him or something. But the chances of that happening are like 1%. So I don't expect them to trade into the first or second rounds. I don't. Now, I can't tell you that it's a sure thing because Chris Greer he's unpredictable, dude. Completely. So he easily could trade into the first or second rounds. Maybe somebody reaches out to him and they make him an offer that he can't refuse, as they say. So it's just it's crazy. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's see. Hoping we can draft a center and a inside linebacker. We shall see. They will have an opportunity to draft one of those kind of players in the third and fourth rounds. That's for sure. I wouldn't mind running back either. I wouldn't mind middle linebacker. I wouldn't mind a defensive tackle. I wouldn't mind a center. There's several positions that I wouldn't mind. Even a cornerback / returner type, I wouldn't mind that either. If there's a cornerback there that, okay, they feel he's a decent corner, but he's really an exceptional returner, and that's where those kind of players may fall to you in the third or fourth rounds, I don't mind that either. If you can improve the special teams, and who knows, he might be a guy that McDaniel can use as kind of a gadget guy on offense too. That's the key. One of the things that the Dolphins have to avoid, and they did not under Flores, too many of their receivers were useless outside of being receivers. Albert Wilson doesn't help you anywhere. Devontae Parker wasn't helping you anywhere. Will Fuller wasn't helping you as a receiver, or it wasn't going to be a returner either. It's one of those things that you weren't using most of your guys, your back end guys. Your top 2 or 3, if they're not special teamers, you can live with that. You cannot live with your 4th, 5th, or even if you keep a 6th or a 7th wide receiver, which is a lot. But those guys have to be multiple. And that is something that Brian Flores failed at the last couple of years. The back end of those receiving cores have to be more flexible. The back end of your running back core has to be more flexible. The back end of your defensive backs has to be more flexible. You cannot have a guy that doesn't start as a linebacker, doesn't start as a corner, doesn't start as a wide receiver, doesn't start as a running back, and he doesn't help you out on special teams. He has to have another skill set to help you out. He cannot be just Duncan Robinson. You've got to be more than Duncan Robinson. So that's one of the other things that I want you to keep an eye on in this draft, because you may find yourself a two-way player at cornerback, at running back, at wide receiver. So I think that also could be an option too, to maybe add a mix into the return game if there's a guy there. And we will, follow the process. And then as we start getting closer to our pick, we'll start talking about players available and positions and guys that they may be targeting and those kind of things. So we'll have some fun over the next 3 days with all of that. Sean Stanley, as always, mastering it. We appreciate all of you, as always, tuning in. Thank you. We will see you later on this evening, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back right here on the platform, rocking and rolling. You can catch us on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all over the place. We'll be back at 8 p.m. Eastern. You all be good out there. Much love to Ira Winderman, Clay Ferraro, David Dwork, and Anthony Chang for joining us. We'll see you later. Be good.
Sports Grill on Bird Road, Miami Lakes, and their newest location in Doral is now hiring. If you're looking to join a great company and South Florida institution, give them a ring or drop an email. Sports Grill is hiring all kinds of positions from hostess to servers, bartenders, or join the kitchen staff to craft some great food for their amazing customers. Please send your resume to m.cruz@sportsgrillmiami.com or call 305-219-5726. That's 305-219-5726. Sports Grill. Good food, good drink, good friends.